Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of the BJJ Foxcast. I'm your host, Alex Martinez. And today we have a very special guest, Elisabeth Clay. I gotta be honest, Liz, I'm a little nervous.
How come?
I don't know. I'm a little intimidated. But Liz is a multiple-time world champion, multiple-time Pan-American champion, and multiple-time ADCC, what would you call it? Like invitee? I mean, qualifier? Qualifier.
I mean, yeah, I've qualified the once when I was 16, and then I got invited back this last year.
Nice.
And I want to fix the Pan Am thing,
Yeah.
not as a black belt yet.
Right. I get it.
No gi Pans and no gi Worlds as a black belt, but
Right.
not in the gi yet. I've placed, but I haven't won yet. So
Yeah. In my mind, it still counts. All right. Well, listen, you and I have known each other for a few years now.
Yeah.
And I want to tell the story about late February, early March 2020.
Oh man,
We're all getting ready for Pans. Remember that?
Yeah.
And everybody's training hard. I was on weight for the first time in a long time. And everything's looking good, and then the world got shut down. Remember that?
yeah, that was insane. Especially that was supposed to be my first gi competition as a brown belt.
Yep.
And because of all of that, I ended up not competing
Yep.
at all, like in the brown belt division, except for no gi Worlds.
No kidding.
Previously, that was it. I lost literally my entire brown belt year. The only thing I got was no gi Worlds, and I don't think people realize I had only gotten my brown belt like 2 or 3 weeks before
Yep.
no gi Worlds. So I literally, as far as competing, I had less than a month
Wow.
competing like as a brown belt. Because
Wow.
I was supposed to do Europeans, and Europeans happened that year.
Yeah.
But it just didn't work out with getting like sponsors to pay for stuff.
Yeah.
And if you live in the U.S., going to Euros is really expensive.
It's staying there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if
Yeah.
you don't have sponsors that are paying for you, I don't have that kind of money. I don't know about other
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
So, and then that happened, and me and my brother were staying with you guys, and it's
Yes.
going on, and we're like, well, what's going on?
Yeah.
And all the training was super good, and I was feeling great.
Yeah.
And I just remember, I think I was out eating Chipotle with Josh and Yaya, and they're like, I think they're going to cancel it. I was like, no way.
No way. Yeah.
No way. They can't
Yeah.
shut everything down.
Yeah.
There's no way that can happen, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's in like a week and a half. There's no way that's going to happen.
Yep.
And it got shut down,
Yep.
and it got canceled. And I remember being like, everyone, me, you, everybody was flights,
Yep.
trying to figure out what we were going to do for training.
Yep.
I remember Dan, they bought mats.
Yeah.
We're like, oh God,
Yeah.
that was insane.
Yeah. So Dan and Andrea Ensing, shout out to Dan and Andrea. They converted their living room into a studio, right, into an academy. And I remember we had the staff couch, STAPH couch, that everybody would sit on, waiting their turn to go on. And that was wild, man.
Yeah, that was insane. And
Yeah.
then like trying to figure out, we're like, well, do we stay down here to like me and my brother at least? Because for people that don't know, I was living in Alaska at this
Right.
point.
Yes,
so
that's right.
I was just down here to train.
That. Yeah. That's
So I
right.
remember like, well, do I like try to figure out how to stay down here and like train down here? Do I go back home like to Alaska?
Yeah.
Or like what's going on? How is this training gonna work?
Yeah.
And trying to figure all that out. And that was like, and this wasn't during like a long period either. This is during like a week, maybe,
Yeah, couple weeks.
maybe 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It just wasn't very long.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't remember exactly how it all worked out, but then, you guys went back home, and then shortly after that, I want to talk about this. Your family is really behind you and your brother in this endeavor, right? In your jiu-jitsu career.
Very much so.
Talk to me about that a little bit, because they actually moved from Alaska so that you could come and train in the lower 48, but you didn't come here directly, did you?
I didn't. They did. So
Okay.
for that, honestly, I kind of have to back up even further, because
Okay.
them moving down to the lower 48 wasn't the first time that they moved for me having training.
No kidding.
No. So where I started training, if anybody knows anything about me, I don't really talk about it a lot. I think whenever I get asked about it, I'll kind of be like, it was a small gym, whatever.
Yeah.
We're still not going to give names, because I think some people don't deserve
That's okay.
credit
That's okay. Yeah.
for things. But I started training at a very small gym.
Yeah.
Where it was run by a blue belt at the time when I started training.
Wow. Okay.
And anybody that knows about military guys, ex-military, when you think of that personality trait
Yeah.
that normally is, that's this guy.
Okay.
Like classic.
Okay.
And I have a ton of military friends, but he's
Yeah.
very much that like not the one that you want.
Gotcha.
So I started
Gotcha.
training there. I trained there for about 4.5 years. So I made a long time training there.
Yeah.
And things ended up not working out. Right after I'd actually won my very first gi world title as a juvenile. is a blue belt.
Wow.
And and so stuff didn't end up working out. And I remember, and this is all during the time period of about a month, where I was going through and we were looking for gyms to train at, out of the state.
Yeah.
Because it's Alaska. There's
Yep.
not a big one, a lot of training, especially where I was at. I was on the Kenai Peninsula.
Where exactly is that? Because you told me about this before. How hard is it to get to that Kenai Peninsula?
So you can drive.
Okay.
However, it's about a 4 or 5 hour drive from Anchorage.
Yeah, and the
Which
Anchorage is
is
where the big airport is.
Yes.
Yeah, gotcha.
Anchorage is where most people fly into.
Yeah.
So if you're flying into Anchorage, and where I was at was a couple hours away from that.
Wow.
And when I say a couple hours away, I mean the gym that I was training at is the only gym unless you drive all the way to Anchorage.
Wow.
So I happen to be, oh look, there's Tojo.
There's Tojo.
So
we have a co-host. Alex the Tojo Cray just walked into the studio, fresh off of his glassing. For what were you glassing for today?
Bighorn sheep.
Bighorn. Oh, that's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
Nice.
Yeah. So, let me look at your camera angle there. I need you to slide.
Does he look extra ugly?
He looks terrible.
Perfect.
But that's just like his normal.
It's just how he looks. There's
is
no
normal.
really
Extra
fixing
ugly
that.
is the baseline.
I'm gonna have you slide that way slightly.
He says, get
There you
away
go.
from
Do I
him.
smell that bad?
Perfect. No. I want to get Liz in the shot. I want you out of it.
Oh, that makes sense.
All right.
he doesn't want your face in it.
Look
So-
at her. She's
so-
got all makeup
Just to recap, we talked briefly about March 2020 when Liz and Dave got stranded here. Right, when the pandemic happened and she got shut down. But we're also talking about
You mean when they were lucky
when
enough
they were
to
lucky
be
enough to
Yeah,
be
and I
stranded
tried
here.
to convince Alex and Amy to let me move in, and they didn't want me to move in with them.
She comes here and Taylor's here. She's like, what the fuck?
What's going on? This is mine. What is going on here? This is supposed to be mine. I thought we established that.
I don't want you to be jealous, but Taylor actually has a door that closes to that.
Wow. You gave her a door? You gave her a door. Wow, that hurts. That hurts.
But then we started talking about Liz is early in her training and the support that she's gotten from her family. Her family has literally moved a few
Multiple times, yeah.
I didn't know it was a few times.
Yeah, you guys got a good thing going. Your family is so supportive of you guys.
Yeah, that's really awesome. That's really awesome. So finish telling me about, okay, so you're, a few miles from Anchorage, or a few hours from
Yes.
Anchorage, and your school was one of the very few between, between the airport and.
Yep. And Anchorage itself, for people that know, have a couple gyms. And I ended up going up there. This tells you how small Alaska is. We were up there for a dental appointment.
Oh, okay.
Because it's better dentists up there.
Yeah.
So we were up there for a dental appointment, and I hadn't trained in probably a couple weeks.
Okay.
Just because of how things went at my old school.
Yeah.
And literally went in, and this is also how I became Aries, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
Walked into Legacy, and for people who don't know, that's an Aries affiliate.
Yep.
And walked in, did a class, and I was like, oh, we don't have to move out of state. I like it here. I moved away. I was 16. I was fresh 16. So this was in June. My birthday's in June.
Yeah.
So I just turned 16. Maybe I think literally 6 days before.
No kidding.
And I moved up to Anchorage by myself to live with a family there until my family could come up. So I was up in Anchorage by myself, basically, as a fresh 16-year-old to be able to be there for training. And then eventually, obviously,
And blue belt, right?
Yeah.
So when did you? I mean, obviously everybody has that moment when I love jiu-jitsu, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, you took it another level. You're a professional athlete at that point, right?
Yeah.
When did you decide, hey, I'm going to go all in? Because you were a gymnast before, right? Your family, you have a long history with gymnastics. And so when did you say, hey, I'm going to sell out. This is going to be my thing. No matter what happens, jiu-jitsu is it.
So from right away, I knew I wanted to do it professionally, but I still had that route of I wanted to be a doctor. And the time that I decided that I was, when I actually made the decision, I was 13 or 14 because I always did super well in school and I was homeschooled, and through the programs that you have, you can start going to college as soon as you get into high school.
Wow.
So I basically made that decision as soon as I got into high school, and I got into high school on the earlier side. So I think I was probably about 14, but it's about when I was going in, and I was like, hey, so I'm not going to college early, which means I'm not going to college at all.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be a professional athlete.
Awesome.
And so I was pretty young still. I was again 13 or 14 maybe when I made that decision.
Wow. So You know, my 13 and 14-year-olds were still forgetting like their jackets at the movies. You know what I mean? Like,
let alone knowing what they want to do for the rest of their life.
Yeah, exactly. So that's really cool that you had that, you know, early on. And so how did it come about where your parents or your family is like, you know what, it's a good idea, let's go to Anchorage? How did that come about?
Basically in my mom and my dad's mind, but my mom was always very was even more so than my dad. But my dad's always super supportive. If you've ever talked to my dad, you look at his Instagram. His Instagram is literally like me and my brother. And the funniest thing, there's 6 others of us, and I don't think people realize that. And the thing is, it's not like my family's just crazy about me and my brother. My mom was like that with my older siblings in gymnastics. The reason I wasn't able to take gymnastics as far was because gymnastics is really expensive. So there were only, you know, I don't come from a wealthy family by any means.
Right.
I've had, you know, kind of all spectrums as far as living goes, and I think if I tell some stories about when I was younger, it would surprise a lot of people.
Right.
But they were just always super, super supportive. And basically, at that point, I had already won worlds and that type of thing. And it was also like my mom was like, well, it's not just her, because at the time my 3 younger brothers trained as well, so they didn't have training either.
Oh, okay.
So my mom was kind of like, you know, you've already put this much into it. My dad too. They're like, you've already put this much into it. Your brothers also don't have somewhere to train. You know, you know, as soon as we can, we'll move. And it was hard because we went from having, I'd never lived in an apartment until I was 16 years old and moved to Anchorage. We went from having, you know, when I was really little, we had 41 acres. And then we went to 5 acres. And then we had like 12 in Alaska. But we always had like property.
Yeah.
I'd never lived even in a subdivision.
Wow.
So we went from that to like, I moved up by myself, whatever. And then when they came up, we were in this like little, was it 3-bedroom? I think it was like a little, but it was like a tiny 3-bedroom apartment. It was not like a big 3-bedroom. Like when I say tiny, I mean like the size of the studio was one of the bedrooms, like tiny.
Yeah.
And
Whoa! This studio is big.
No, it's not.
No, you're talking about for a bedroom though. When you're talking about, you know, 4 kids.
This is Zach's room.
Let's do this.
Yeah, I know.
Let's all stand up and walk around the table. See how that works out.
Tripping over all your wires.
But you know, there were 4 kids, and then my mom and my dad in this, and that was literally, and then obviously eventually, I think within like a year or 2, bought a house up there. So it just took a little bit of time to get to that point, but there was a lot of sacrifice on all fronts that went to this. At 16, I literally lived in a car with my mom and one of my brothers for a couple weeks to be able to train.
Wow,
that's wild.
And like this wasn't just me making the sacrifice. Like this is my entire family making the sacrifice.
Well, you mentioned you did Worlds. I mean, that's flying down to California at the time, right?
Yep.
Yeah, by myself.
Yeah, that's
Long Beach, right?
That's not a hotel and.
So for the first one, my mom actually flew down with me.
Wow. Okay.
I didn't have a coach though. I had no coach. I just had my mom with me.
Wow.
And it was insane. And what's funny is one of the guys that ended up coaching me there was just one of the guys from Alaska. Ended up being one of the guys that trained over at Legacy.
Oh, no kidding. Oh, shit. Wow.
But what's funny is when this was going on, he was not. He was from one of the different teams that was up there, and he ended up switching over.
I feel like Arizona kind of does that too.
Funny.
Like you find a guy like that's at, you know, you train with them here in Phoenix or whatever, and they're like, we're not the same team, but we're like kind of Arizona community.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure that happens sometimes.
Yeah. So let's I don't know if we're fast forwarding or rewinding. You win Worlds, and then this 16-year-old kid goes to I believe it was in California, the West Coast Trials. Was it in California at the time?
Yep.
16-year-old blue belt, and you win the West Coast Trials.
Yeah, that was the following year.
Yeah. Can you let everybody know what ADCC is and what it means to you in your career?
So ADCC is basically the Olympics of Nogi Jiu-Jitsu. If you follow any of it, it only happens once every 2 years. And this is funny. I hated Nogi. I hated Nogi.
Yeah.
Like, I remember training for this competition, and they'd be like, hey, we need to do Nogi. We can do gi or Nogi. And I remember looking over and telling people and being like, we're doing gi, right? You want to train gi.
Yeah.
Right? I was like, I will beat you up. You want gi, right? They're like, I want gi.
Of course.
And this is literally like 8 months before this competition. I only started training Nogi about like 6-8 months before that.
Yeah.
And I still hated
gi.
despised it. And I remember like signing up for the heavier weight class. I was like, I'm not cutting all the way down to 132. I don't want to do that stuff. That sucks.
Yeah.
And my coach is like, maybe you're kind of small. You should probably cut down. And I was fine. I'll cut down.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not even going to win this competition. This is stupid. I'm not going to win this competition. I'm going there for, the experience. And this competition almost had even more so because at my first gym, my coach literally told me it would be a waste of time for me to even try to compete until I was at least a purple belt in 19 because I was just going to get injured and lose.
Wow. Okay, that's vision, right?
Which is funny, but because you look at it now, there's
Yeah.
so many blue and purple belts that go there and just murder.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So then I went, at 16 in a blue belt and I won. And I kind of I remember I called my mom and I was like, nah, look at this now.
Was there only the 2 divisions then too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they used to have more back in I want to say 2007 or something like that, but I didn't even train at that point. Also, I was 7 years old.
Yeah.
So all of it, I don't even remember the exact years that they had it, but they had a number of weight classes too. It wasn't just 3. They had 5 or 6 weight classes. And I don't remember what year they cut it down, but they cut it down to the 2, which is insane.
Yeah.
Especially when you talk about not even just for me, but you have Maisa. Maisa's fighting 132. That's huge for Maisa, especially when you get people like Bia Mosquito that's cutting all the way down.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
me and Bia walk around close to the same weight.
Wow.
We fight in 2 different divisions, but I don't cut.
Or 55?
No, it's 60, which is 132.
Okay.
If it was 66, I would cut down because that's about 145.
Yeah.
You were tiny in that division.
Yeah.
Well, and the
Yeah.
thing is, if you look at the pictures from me competing, I've already put back over 8 pounds of water.
Wow.
Because you weigh in the mornings,
Yeah.
and then I didn't compete until later in the day. So I don't have any pictures of me on weight because I think a lot of girls can kind of relate to this. You always kind of want to get smaller. I was so small. I looked at it and I went, I look disgusting.
Yeah.
It wasn't even which is kind of funny because it kind of did the opposite. Because I had eating disorders, I think a lot of kids did, especially girls growing up.
Yeah.
And the environment I was in, as far as my first gym, wasn't the best, and it definitely attributed to that.
Yeah.
So I remember always wanting to be small, and then I saw myself like that, and I was like, I don't like this. I look horrible. I stopped putting on bronzer contour here because it made me look too sunken in. Because I was already so sunken in and skinny. I remember the guys telling me, they're like, and these are the guys that were helping me cut down and everything. They're like, don't ever do this aside from for ADCC because you literally look anorexic.
Wow.
Wow. And it was not a you're cutting down, but you can tell you're gonna bounce right back. It was bad.
How did you feel energy wise?
When I made the weight?
Yeah.
I thought I only did 3 baths. And I didn't remember most of the last one. I did 4.
Wow.
And I didn't find that out until almost 6 or 8 months later when I was talking with my coach who was helping me do it. And he's like, no, you did 4. And I was like, what are you talking about? I was I did 2.
One?
No, so I did.
Probably,
Here's what I thought happened. I thought I did 2 baths that I fully remembered. 2 baths and then 2 getting wrapped up. Mm-hmm. And then I remember going in the 3rd bath and I remember bits and pieces. And this is how much of a physical reaction I had. If anybody's cut extreme weight or seen somebody cut, and I don't mean cut weight oh, you're tired. I mean cut so much weight your body hits a survival point that you're not even physically doing it, but you're getting out of the water and stuff. And for anybody who's seen me cut weight, I'm a very chill person when I'm cutting weight. I'm not yelling at you. I'm not anything. I'll get in the bath. I just want to see my time.
Yeah.
Aside from that, different people cut weight very different. Yeah. I'm on the side that I'm oh, thanks for helping me cut weight.
Yeah.
I remember bits and pieces of me trying to get out of the bath. I remember bits and pieces. I don't know if Jordan knows this still, so if he watches this, I'm glad your laptop's not broken. I shoved the laptop off of the because I was trying to get out. It was sitting on the bathtub or on the toilet, and I remember bits and pieces of me. I'm pretty sure I threw it or pushed it or something. And this is, in my mind, this is all the 3rd one. I don't know what of this is the 3rd weight cut and which of this is the 4th because I legitimately do not remember a 4th one at all. I really thought this was all the 3rd one, so I don't know if I completely blacked out on the 4th one or if they didn't realize I was that bad either.
Yeah.
Apparently I hide it, and even though you could tell I was kind of done, I hit it, and I still went to sleep almost a pound overweight.
Wow.
And it wasn't like I started cutting from crazy high either. I think I started cutting from, and this was a little bit of weight. It's more than I should have been cutting from, but my body, I physically just stopped losing weight.
Yeah.
And I actually started putting on weight, even though I was weighing everything. So it wasn't like I was changing anything. About a month before, I was about 135. And when it came for me to step on the plane from Alaska to head to this competition, I was 141, and I hadn't changed anything.
Whoa.
I was weighing everything, so it wasn't like
and training your ass off.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I was eating around the same, and you know how stuff like that. No. Yeah. I physically, everything that went into my mouth, I physically weighed it.
Yeah.
So, and I recorded everything, so I know nothing changed at all, not even like a gram of food more.
Wow.
And my body just hit the point that it was done. So by the time I actually started cutting weight, I was about 138, so I had about 6 pounds to cut. However, for any guy that, even now, I can cut more than that in a bath. You know, while 6 pounds is a decent amount to cut, it should not take 4 baths.
No,
and
it's
not,
totally doable.
And not like that. And these weren't short baths either. These were over 20-minute.
Yeah, your body was
baths.
fighting hard.
And I was still a pound over when I went to sleep.
Wow.
And
can you explain like what baths are? Like, are you Epsom salt baths, right?
Epsom salt baths with alcohol in there because it opens up the pores, and with sweet sweat. I still to this day, if someone walks in the room with sweet sweat, I can smell it.
Yeah.
Because it's like, and what's funny is right before I did that cut, I remember like, oh, sweet sweat smells like, it smells good.
Yeah.
I have like PTSD from the sweet sweat.
I'm sure.
Now.
Yeah.
But I just remember after doing those baths and everything and still being a pound over, I remember literally just like breaking down and like crying and being like, I've literally, for anybody that was around me, then like I was starving myself because I wasn't losing weight. It wasn't like I just started at that. Like my body isn't meant to go that low.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people can do one where they've done a competition and like it doesn't matter what you're doing, how much more running you add in. Okay, well maybe the running doesn't work. We'll do swimming. Like anything and everything in your body is just like, I'm going to start putting on weight because I don't want to do this. This isn't good for me.
Yeah.
And that's my body hit that. I was literally starving myself for months. This wasn't like a 2 months before.
Yeah.
I started cutting in December.
Wow.
Because I knew my body wasn't going to want to do it.
Yeah.
And in March at Pans, I had only made it. I started cutting it probably about 148-ish, 149. And I was 135
wow.
in March.
How old were you then? I was
16.
16. Yeah. I mean, you're still like growing too. You're maturing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're fighting that and then trying to cut weight. Like,
exactly.
Your body's
it's rough.
totally doesn't want anything to do with that. Yeah.
At all. Honestly, I think it might be easier for me to cut the weight now than then, just because my body's kind of like settled out.
Yeah.
And I'm basically the same weight now, which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
But it messed me up afterwards, because after cutting all that weight, my body didn't want to lose weight. Because for anybody that knows, I got injured when it actually came to do ADCC. After qualifying, my body did not want to lose any weight.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah.
Anything I put on, my body didn't want to lose. I could change it where I obviously when I was injured, I would say I had more fat on me, and then when I went back to training, I lost basically all of that. However, I could convert it from like fat to muscle, but I couldn't lose the actual weight itself. My body was like, no, you're gonna keep all of this.
This is who we are.
Well, you crashed your endocrine system, like you
exactly.
said, you're maturing as like a human.
Yeah,
like that's when all that stuff is like developing and stabilizing, and you just nope, I'm gonna derail that train.
Yeah, exactly. No, you're not allowed to grow.
Yeah,
yeah. So, I'd like to talk about that a little bit, going a little bit deeper in it, because we always talk about health and fitness in the podcast, and I'm an academy owner. You're an instructor at academies. You're an instructor. I think we've all taught kids classes, right? And I'm very conscious of like what we're teaching the kids, right? I don't allow kids to cut weight. Yeah. And can you talk about that a little bit? I always talk about the relationship with food, right? Especially little girls, growing up. And there's always that point. We can talk about it or not. I mean, we can edit it out, whatever you want to do. But I think you as a role model for young girls getting into the sport, I think it's important for them to hear some of the things that you went through that you may want to change or would have done differently, or things that affected you in such a way that still affect you today. Can you kind of talk about that relationship with food, cutting weight, all that stuff, how that affects you like mentally and physically?
I think it's different now at this point for me cutting weight, because you look at it and you're like, okay, this is a job.
Yeah.
I'm getting paid
Yeah.
to go down to make this weight this once. And for a lot of people that know me, I don't really cut a lot of weight even now. So I walk around probably right now, probably about 150.
Okay.
And I compete at middleweight, which
Okay.
is just 147.
Yeah, perfect.
In Nogi.
Okay.
Now, if I got offered a fight that they're going to pay me enough money and it's a fight that I want, I would go down as light to 140.
Yeah.
Now, this is also day before weigh-ins. This is also I can cut in a bath. This is very different.
Yeah.
However, for kids, I don't think you should not be cutting weight. Now, not eating junk food isn't cutting weight.
Right.
There's a very big difference with that. And I think a lot of people are like, oh, I'm cutting weight. Well, how are you cutting weight? Well, I'm eating healthy. Well, that's not cutting weight.
Right. Yeah.
That's not, I think it's one thing, 2 weeks before the competition, hey, your kid's like a pound over, something like that. If they eat a lot of candy, if they eat a lot of junk food, you can take that away for the 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think that that's a thing that you should deprive your kids of all of the time, though.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, a big thing that you see, I think, with a lot of parents that are very, very health conscious with their kids, you get the thing that when they're finally able to have it, they have no idea what self-control is.
Right. Yeah.
Because they never learned it.
Yeah.
And so you get it, and they go insane when it comes to that. And then, okay, so maybe your kid doesn't have a problem with anorexia, but maybe now they have problems with binge eating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is just as bad, if not, honestly, I think worse, because at least with the under eating, as long as you're eating enough, don't get me wrong, the thoughts don't necessarily go away, but the actual eating disorder itself is much easier to manage than I would say than if you have a kid that has problems with binge eating.
Yeah. Yeah.
And after competition, always.
Oh, it's the best.
But that's different.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I don't think, but you wouldn't call it healthy.
No, definitely.
But you know it's not healthy.
Right.
Yeah.
And
That's
but
not the point. Yeah.
no, but no, it's not. But the thing is, you also shouldn't be. I think it's very different when you do it as an adult and it's a conscious thing than when you start building that in a small child. Because the thing is, that stuff doesn't. It's easy when you're an adult that you're like, okay, I'm just not going to do this right now.
Yeah.
Versus if you started that as a kid, it's not gonna be just the hey, I'm not going to do this. So I think it's okay. I had a coach, and this is while I'm cutting down at ADCC. So this probably made one of the parents that thought this. And this kid was like, this is not a fat kid, right? He had like the normal, like little, but he was like a skinny kid.
Yeah.
And the dad is extremely overweight.
Okay.
However, he thinks he's a boxer.
And awesome. Yeah.
And I remember he wanted his kid to cut like 3 pounds. When you're like 50 or 60 pounds, that's a lot of weight.
That's a lot of weight.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's a huge percentage of that kid's thing. And he's like, 2-3 pounds is like nothing. And I remember we're about 2 weeks out from the competition, and he has his kid in a hoodie doing class.
Ooh, I hate that.
And the thing is, though, here's the thing as well. From a weight cutting perspective, if you know anything from weight cutting, 2 weeks out does nothing. That's stupid. And if anything, is actually going to hinder your weight cutting.
You're just dehydrating right now for no
But also,
reason.
he's drinking water in between class still.
Yeah.
So you're making the kid miserable.
Yeah.
He's not even able to pay attention in class. And I went up and I was like, hey, how come you're wearing a hoodie? He's like, well, my dad told me I had to. I go, you can take it off. He goes, but my dad told me I had to. I go, hey, we're on the mat, right?
Yeah.
He goes, yeah. I go, who's in charge on the mat?
You're like,
He goes,
I'm dad now.
He goes, no, literally. No,
Look at me.
He goes there. He's like, you are. And he's like, I don't want to get in trouble. I was like, you're not. Because I'm going to talk to him. I was like, I promise. I was like, I got you. Because I understand. I'm also not going to be the coach that's going to tell you to do something, and then you're going to go get yelled at by your parent, and then I'm not going to do anything. That's messed up. So I took his hoodie off, and I set it off on the side. The dad takes it, puts it back on the kid. So I take it, and I put it on my mat over in the corner.
Yeah.
And the dad comes up and talks to me, and I go, move him up a weight class because he's not wearing that hoodie in my class.
Yeah. Good for you.
And if I see him in that lower weight class competing, I'm going to be mad, and we're going to have problems because I know the people that run the entire competition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can literally just call them and have them move him up.
Yeah.
I was like, he's not cutting that much weight.
Yeah.
Especially, I think he was like 7. This isn't
Oh my
even.
gosh.
This isn't even like a 12-year-old,
No,
right? And
this
I
is
still don't think a 12-year-old should be doing that by any
Yeah.
means.
Yeah.
But this is literally like a 7-year-old.
Yeah. That's not okay.
And I literally went and I was like, no, he's not doing it. I was like, I can explain why he's not doing it because I don't think you're necessarily trying to be a bad person.
Right.
I just think you're ignorant.
Yeah, that's all it is. It's ignorance. That's all it is.
And
there's
that's
no
fine.
benefit at that.
There's
age.
zero benefit.
Well, especially, I'm sorry, this is like a little state competition in Alaska.
Yeah.
Sorry to tell you, no one cares.
No.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Like, you care because you
Of
care about your
course,
kid.
of course,
And
yeah.
the kid cares and that type of stuff. But at the end of the day, really, you're going to make him that miserable for something at the end of the day. And I told him, and I was like, and guess what you're doing as well? One, you're making him hate the sport. You're also killing his metabolism.
Yep.
Because the thing is, you only have so many weight cuts like that in you. Why are you going to start doing it as a small kid like that?
Yeah.
If you're going to cut weight like that, at least do it when you're older, when it, you know, actually makes a difference and it's, you know, somewhat...
Yeah.
It's professional. At
exactly.
least it's making, there's a reason for it. Instead, you're making your kid cut weight. That's why.
Yeah, like
there's
you said,
no reason.
Like you said, your weight cut is really incentive based. If it
Exactly.
makes dollars, right? If it makes dollar cents, then it makes sense, right?
Well,
I mean,
and I still don't do it all the time either. When I fought Bia Mosquita, it was a fight at 145.
Right.
I weighed in at 143. I happened to just be lighter.
yeah.
However, this is also, I wouldn't even fight at 145 regularly, even if I was getting paid, because the thing is, it's a special thing for me to go down that low.
Yeah.
You're going to pay me extra to then be doing that.
Absolutely.
And be going that low.
I agree.
But I mean, you made a good point about like, there's a big difference between like you losing 5 pounds, 10 pounds versus Alex or you know, one of the bigger people. Like, it's a big difference.
It's a percentage wise more so than anything. And I think people like, okay, me losing 3, 4, 5 pounds is a huge difference than a rooster weight losing that much.
Right.
That's a huge percentage of their body weight.
Yeah.
And you have to look at that as well. And like a kid, come on, they're still growing. Okay, maybe hey, Billy can't have candy for 2 weeks.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, he's not gonna, you know, die off of that, and he's also not gonna necessarily have a bad mindset with it when you literally just go, hey, for 2 weeks, we're just going to clean up your diet because you're also going to feel better and perform better with it. And then afterwards, you can, you know, go back to eating like normal. That's fine.
Especially at that age.
Yeah, or don't even talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, just don't give them the candy.
Yeah, just don't give them the candy. Can I have this? Nah, we're going to do something else.
Yeah, we're going to do something else.
But I mean, the advantage,
it's not a big deal.
The advantage of like a little kid at that age, it's like, it's not like there's a lean muscle mass difference between like those age groups. Like, it's not like they're adults or even teenagers. Teenagers is like, that's when that really starts to be a big difference.
I wonder how much of it is the parent's ego. Like if he moves up a weight class, he might lose. Ooh.
But there's probably a lot of it like
right?
let's see, how long ago is that, do you think? I guess, I mean, because since the UFC, I think there's a lot more exposure to weight cutting, to the normal person.
Yeah,
and I think a lot of people expect that in any combat sport or wrestling. That's really common.
Yeah, I think wrestling it's super common, but I think you also get the opposite, where you'll get people that are like, nobody should cut weight. I'm like, I'm sorry, that's not gonna happen. Especially at the professional level. Now, I'm honestly against most adults even cutting weight if you're not at the professional point, because the thing is, you're doing it for fun. Now, if you're talking, you want to lose a couple pounds just to be healthier, that's a totally different thing than cutting weight for a competition. And I think that also needs to be talked about. If you get the guy that comes in and let's say he's 220, and not that I'm saying that if you're 220, you need to lose weight. Everyone has their different body compositions and things like that.
If you're 4'10", probably.
But you know what I mean? Like, okay, he came in at 220 and he wants to be 200 pounds because he'll just be at a healthier weight in general. That's completely different than, let's say you have the guy that, let's say the same weight. He's 220, but he's pure muscle.
Yeah.
And he's a blue belt.
Yeah.
Bro doesn't need to cut weight.
No. He's like 11% body fat. You're good.
You're good. And even if he's a little bit on let's say he's even like 18%, so it's a little bit on the other side, but that's not unhealthy. You don't need to cut weight. You don't need to do that. Now, if you're talking, you're a black belt at the adult level and you're, 225 and you go down to, a lower weight class and it'll be different. That's completely different because of the fact you're at the professional level. I think this whole idea of having even hobbyists cutting weight is, I'll be the first one to sit there. I think it's stupid.
It is, and I used to do it, so I'm pretty stupid. But I realized, at a certain age, you really have to watch what you're eating. You really have to dig deep and figure out.
That age is the age you started jiu-jitsu.
Yes. Oh yeah. No, a friend of mine years ago, I was a white belt, and I told a buddy of mine back in Virginia that I was doing jiu-jitsu. He's like, He's like, that's for young people. I was like, hey, I said, there's a lot of people my age doing jiu-jitsu. He's like, yeah, they're called black belts.
Yeah.
that was a good line. I
got to watch my metabolism fall apart as I aged through jiu-jitsu. Yeah. Because I started when I was 25. So that's prime.
Yeah, my metabolism was already shit. So it's okay. But so hey, let's circle back a little bit. So come into the lower 48. You won the West Coast Trials. Did you actually go to ADCC and compete?
I blew my knee out.
That's what I thought.
2 weeks before.
Yeah.
With a training partner whose ego kind of got in the way.
No.
Yeah, it's lovely. Yeah. That's still person. I'll see him and I'm like, I hate you.
Now, was it catastrophic? Was it ACL or what was it?
It tore my PCL, stretched out my ACL, MCL, LCL.
You don't hear about the PCL.
Yeah.
You weren't competing. Yeah.
No, and I was out of training even for a couple months there. I was in a full when you tear your PCL, they still give you the ACL brace because it stops it from going backwards. Mm-hmm. I was in a full ACL brace, and for anyone who knows what those are, those suck.
Yeah.
They're huge. They're clunky. I have a perma
Robo
bruise.
leg.
Yeah, I literally have like a perma bruise on my calf from it because I had to wear it even when I was sleeping. My knee was so bad.
Oh, yeah. Shoot.
I took it off just to shower. Once my knee was healed enough, for a little bit, I had to like hang my leg out of the shower because I couldn't. My first like exercising back was literally taking it off for a couple minutes and walking around the house without it because my knee was so injured.
Wow.
So this happened in like the beginning of September, I think. I didn't compete again until February, and that was still me coming back early. I wasn't supposed to be back until like March or April.
Yeah.
And
what caused the injury? Was it like a submission, or was it like?
So what happened earlier is I was wrestling and I got my leg crossed up over my left one, and I kind of got pushed back on and it popped.
Oh.
And
like hyperextended?
Yeah, but it didn't fully do anything yet. It just kind of hurt it a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. And I had already had problems with this knee previously. I had already had bursitis in it. I had already been in to see the same surgeon the year prior, but it was just pretty bad bursitis.
Yeah.
And so that happened, and so my knee was already bothering me. And I told everyone, hey, my knee's bothering me. Maybe don't go that hard on it. ADCC's in 2 weeks. It'll be fine as long as you guys, maybe don't attack that leg, or not necessarily don't attack it, but you guys know what the e-brake is?
Yeah.
Okay. You're not gonna get a tap from the e-brake. You literally just hurt the person's knee.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell me why I'm doing a heel hook and this guy, and like not hard either, decides to rip the e-brake on my knee that I had just hurt that morning and told everyone, don't attack it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and for those people that don't know what an e-brake, can you just briefly describe how it happened?
Yeah. So I was literally in Ashi, so leg under the butt, other foot on the hip, and he literally grabs my heel as hard as he can and rips it straight up. So basically, it does a heel hook motion. However, you don't have the time to tap. Yeah. All the e-brake is going to do is injure the person. If you want to play like that in competition, I don't really care. But in my mind, it's the same idea as if you grab a wrist lock and slam it down as hard as you can. You're not necessarily going to get a tap because the thing is, by the time the damage is done before you can even tap.
Yeah.
So at that point, why am I even tapping?
Yeah. So in the case of your injury, basically the knee is completely isolated, and he's grabbing the heel and cranking like a lever upwards in the direction that the knee doesn't bend.
Exactly.
And that tears your knee.
And when I finished the heel hook, and I got up and I walked to one of the guys, and I was like, I think he just completely shredded my knee.
Oh no.
And he's like, what do you mean? I was like, so it was the guy I was training with earlier that my knee popped backwards with.
Put him on blast. Who is this guy?
He still trains up there, and I didn't train with him for almost 2 years. Yeah. And even still, when I'll see him, I'll literally tell him, I'm like, I still don't really like you.
Did he feel bad about it? I would feel
so bad, dude.
He felt bad, but I still don't, like, it took him, like, weeks, I think, to feel bad.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't even like an immediate thing because I think it got his ego.
Yeah.
And that type of thing. And he literally just ripped it. And then I finished the heel hook and I like got up and I was like, I think my knee's like it's not like just hurt. And for anybody who's like hurt a knee and then shredded a knee, you know how different it feels.
Oh yeah,
and like
all of us, the other thing, a lot of people
have been through that.
Yeah, everyone at this table's had knee surgery, right?
I haven't. I blew mine out, but no surgery. I win.
You definitely win that one.
You need it.
You're not wrong. My surgeon actually told me that he wasn't going to do it, though, because I would need a full knee replacement at 25. That's the only reason I don't have it.
Okay. Yeah, but a lot of people think that, like, when you do have a catastrophic knee injury, that you're like, it's, like, painful and crazy. It's like, it happens, you feel that, like, instability, right? You feel, it's like, it just feels weird. And you're like,
mine
it doesn't
tight.
hurt.
Felt really tight.
Yeah, you're like, something's not right.
Yeah, I tore the nerves in mine, so I still, if you knee bar that leg, if you ever watch somebody who, when they're attacking that leg, if you notice, I look at them a lot because I can't feel it. So like,
oh shit.
She's like, I don't know if you know this about me, but I don't feel pain.
It's terrifying though, because I'll be getting knee barred and like I don't feel anything until it's literally if you've hurt your PCL, or you know when somebody's knee barring you, when it's not just hurt, like you can feel it starting to catch because it's starting to like break.
Yeah,
that's when I feel it, but there's still no pain. I just feel it like breaking, and I'm like, oh,
that's probably a bad idea.
I was like, it's probably not good. It doesn't feel any different from when my leg is straight to when I'm getting like knee barred really bad until it starts doing that, but there's still no pain.
Yeah. Kevin Carrasco scares the shit out of me when he gets knee
he
barred.
Like,
it goes the other direction.
Mine too.
At the feet.
Does it?
When I straighten mine, my left leg goes back about that much further than my other one.
Oh my
with
God.
me just pushing them straight back.
That is so
like when you're
crazy.
just like locking it out.
Yeah, if I stand up and lock it out, it goes back way further than the other one. That's
that
why
sounds like a good thumbnail.
No, people ask, they're like, oh, so you still have like knee problems with it? And I'm like, oh, I mean, it just kind of goes back further than the other one.
Yeah.
And I'm not supposed to actually do any lateral movements because if you tear your PCL, it basically like the PCL doesn't just stop the knee from going backwards. It supports all your other ligaments.
Oh, okay.
And basically my surgeon, he's like, so I'm not going to do surgery on it because to fix it, they have to drill through the bone with how I torn it. And so obviously like the ligament sits and rubs and eventually it pops. And you get about 5 to 10 years out of each surgery. And they can only do 2 before it's a full knee replacement. He's like, shit. As hard as you are on your knees, I can look at your knees like basically your knees trashed.
Yeah.
And this was at 17. This was 5 years ago. Yeah. And he's like, you're going to get like 5 years out of each surgery. He's like, that puts you at like 25, 26 needing a full knee replacement. He's like, I'm not doing surgery. But he also told me with the thing, he's like, I can't tell you this is going to heal either though.
Yeah.
He's
was it fully torn?
Luckily, it wasn't. It was about halfway done, but all the other ligaments in my knee were completely stretched out, so it wasn't. Yeah. So my knee basically, he's like, part of the reason you're having such huge problems, and my knee would pop out and not just straight backwards. It was popping out like everywhere.
A lot of instability there.
Yeah.
Basically, the ligaments were so either torn or stretched out, depending on which one it was, that my knee was acting like it was fully blown.
Wow.
And that's part of why I was having such a huge problem with it. I would be in half guard, like top half guard, and people would put me in lockdown, and my knee would just start popping out.
Oh shit!
Or I would like walk, and my knee would start like popping backwards. And basically, it was just because I'd stretched everything else out. He's like, you're lucky in the fact that anybody that's trained me, I have hyperligament laxity, so my ligaments are super loose anyway. Yeah. He's like, you're lucky in the fact that you have that. However, they take a long time to tighten back up. They almost take longer to tighten back up than if you've partially torn it.
Okay.
So it was good and bad. But basically he's like, it could take you 6 months and your knee could heal and you could never have another problem with it. It could take you 2 years and you could literally shred your knee walking down the stairs. Wow. And he's like, when I say shred it, I don't mean your PCL. He goes, I mean everything.
Oh, crap.
And I could have to replace your entire knee. He's like, so I'm not telling you it's going to heal or that you're even going to have a career anymore. He goes, but I'm telling you, if I open that knee up, you won't have a career.
Wow.
He's like, so I'm not touching it. Here's a knee brace. Please wear it. I know you're an athlete. You're probably not going to listen to me because
a young athlete at that.
Yeah.
Well, this surgeon kind of knew me. My shoulder, when I went in the previous year for my knee, and I've always had a shoulder problem. I actually have a muscle atrophy in it from how I was born. Was hollow.
Okay.
Weird.
The bone was hollow.
No kidding. Huh.
Yeah, so I always it's
which shoulder?
It has filled in now. But basically, I kept training with my shoulder being hollow, and if you crack that, you're done. And they didn't know if it was just hollow because it was hollow from like falling on it repeatedly, or if I had bone cancer.
Oh wow!
Oh my gosh!
So I always thought I was the easy child. I was the problem child. When I like think about it, I was like, I literally told my mom a couple months ago, I was like, I really thought I was the kid that didn't stress you out at all. I was like, I was horrible. She's like, well, the hard part was you just kept going. So that's why the surgeon said what he did, because I literally got that news. This is the year before. I literally got that news about my shoulder and then went to train judo. So that's why when he handed me the knee brace, he's like, you're probably not going to listen to me. And I was like, with this one I am, because I can't even walk.
Wow. Yeah.
And this is it started snowing not long after this in Alaska, which was wonderful. Walking like that and trying not to die.
Yeah.
Icy. Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah. So how long did it take you to heal from that?
So that was...
I'm talking back on the mat 100%.
Oh, 100%?
Yeah.
So I was back training without the knee brace in December of that year. However, I was not 100% still.
Okay.
I honestly, I wouldn't even say I was 100% when I was competing still.
Okay.
I was still having, I would still have knee problems and like spasms in it. And I would have to like sit off on the side. For anybody that's had an injury, when you push the injury, probably very similar when you come back from surgery.
Yep.
You know how you'll be okay training, and then all of a sudden you're like, it's done.
It's done. Yeah.
I still had that over a year later.
Wow.
So I remember training for Worlds the following year.
Yeah.
And I was training with Queixinho and Samir in Modesto. And I literally remember I would be in the middle of training sometimes, and I'd be like, they would tell me to sit out because you could see my knee was in so much pain. And it was just done. Yeah. Like I would be training, I'd be good, I'd be able to move and everything, and then it would just be like done. And it hurt more coming back than it hurt when I first injured it.
Was that brown belt?
Blue.
That was still blue?
I was a blue belt. Okay. Yeah.
17?
Yeah, that was, I think that was 2018.
Yeah.
When I was coming back, because I heard it in 2017.
Okay.
That was 2018 coming back. I got my purple belt that Worlds, though.
Okay.
But my knee was still so bad.
Yeah.
Even when I was competing. And because I still wasn't supposed to be competing. But I was.
Young
and
athlete.
I was
yeah, young athlete. Yeah.
Young, stupid, however you want to put it. Because I honestly,
that means the same thing.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
They're synonymous.
So wait, but when does that go away? Because I don't think it would be any different right now.
You're still a young athlete.
Let's see. I'm 50.
She's 22.
I'm 50, so probably about 57.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Ask Paul.
That's a bad one.
I love you, Nava. I love you, brother.
He's gonna be there. He's gonna be like, "You're not coming back to teach anymore." Sorry, Paul.
Yeah. Okay, so at that point, you're already training with Samir and Queixinho out of Modesto. And are you living in Modesto, or are you just kind of crashing there for a while during training?
So I was only supposed to be down there for the camp for Worlds. And I went back up home for my birthday, and I told my mom, I was like, I need to go back down there because there's stuff in the training that I'm not getting where I was at. Not that the training wasn't good, but I talked about this all the time when I was there. I basically didn't know how to defend, like, very modern guards because nobody played them. Yeah. And so I was still winning competitions with this. However, I didn't know how I was supposed to be passing aside from, like, obviously, like, the concepts. Yeah. But as far as actual practice went, like, I didn't have it. So I would literally be figuring it out in competition. And obviously, like, it worked. Yeah. However, I was like, yeah, I'm not a blue belt anymore, though. And I was doing this, like, blue and even, like, beginning of purple. And I was like, I need to go down there to, like, actually at least get some practice training with it. Yeah. So I decided to move down there, like, right after Worlds. And I only ended up living there for about 6 months because my brother, he wasn't getting training back in Alaska because he's younger and can't drive. Right. Yeah. Now he can drive.
How old was he then? Like 12, 13?
He's 4 years younger than me. Yeah. So he was like
12?
Yeah, like 12,
13. 13, yeah.
So he wasn't getting training in. So after about 6 months of living there, in 2018, so the beginning of 2019, I went back up for Christmas. And, like, he wasn't getting training and that type of stuff. And I was like, I have to come back. Yeah.
Like, yeah.
You hear that, David? She was thinking about you.
So you came back so your brother could get some training. And for those of you that don't know David.
Don't talk about him. He gives me
that is a
PTSD.
Big boy.
He's huge.
That is a big boy. Now, I met him when he was He wasn't little, but he was cute.
Yeah, he was still cute.
He was still cute.
He's not cute anymore.
He's a giant. He has a mustache.
Right?
Like, oh my gosh, man.
I don't know what happened.
Mustache adjacent.
Mustache adjacent. He's getting there. But the thing, like, I looked at pictures from like 3 years ago, and like he didn't look like a baby then by any means, but like he looked way more like a baby than he does now.
Yeah. No kidding.
I was seeing it, I was like, dang.
How old is he now? 16?
17.
He's 17. He's almost 18. He's 18 the end of the month.
He's a 17-year-old purple belt, and he just runs through people like they don't exist. Everybody.
Oh, I know.
Everybody that's trained with him. Here's the funny thing: we did that open mat at Q's. And the guys that, train with us, they're like, man, who's that guy? And I'm like, he's a 17-year-old kid. And they're like, what? I mean, he looks 25, you know what I mean?
Right.
So, yeah.
He looks way older.
Yeah.
So this is a question I never used to get. People are always like, who's older? I am 4.5 years older. What do you mean who's older? They're like, oh, is he older than you or younger than you? I'm like, we're not even like 2 years apart. Like, like there's a significant gap. And I'm like,
you're both babies.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm wearing the black belt. Who do you think is older?
Right, yeah.
We're literally on the mat right now.
He's so big, though.
He's
a
huge.
big kid. Yeah.
It's insane.
And he's doing great. I really enjoy talking to him and being around him. He's a good kid.
He's
I like him a lot.
so
he's a fun
much.
kid. I mean, you're going to get your ass kicked, but it's still fun.
Yeah.
He's like trying to hurt you.
And oh, by the way, he's probably going 50% against me.
I know.
Yeah. So you come back. And you're training with your brother. At what point did your family say, you know what, this is for the good of the team, the family, we're gonna move? Did you move to California?
So we talked from when I moved back up. I made it very known that it was not permanent.
Yeah.
To my team up there, my professor up there, even my parents. The plan was for us to move, even at this point. So this is the beginning of 2019. We ended up not moving until right after like the pandemic was kind of chilling out a little bit in 2020.
Yeah.
And so the goal was to move to Arizona.
Okay.
And I left in like, I think it was like May, the beginning of May of 2020.
Yeah.
And they ended up not leaving for a couple of months after that just because they, a house to sell and actually like being real adults.
Yeah.
Instead of adult adjacent.
Yeah.
And one of my friends was opening up their gym again, and he's like, oh, so how's the training going for you? And I hadn't been training this whole time, and I was going psychotic.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, I'm opening my gym back up here in Texas. And I was like, can I come? Like literally, I flew into Phoenix. I bought a car. I drove from Phoenix to, do you get Midland, Texas?
I know where Midland is. Yeah,
I drove there because that's where Bruno Bastos, my friend, was.
West Texas.
Yeah, he was opening it back up. So
there's no part of Texas that is an easy drive to get to from here.
No, no, and I literally like got off the plane, drove straight there, and trained that night when I got in.
Wow.
Because anybody that knows me, I'm little crazy. Little crazy.
A little bit.
Yeah. And that's not the only time I've done stuff like that. So I literally
athlete, that's how it works.
Yeah.
You have to be a little crazy.
Yeah.
And so literally went and he opened it up, and I was still a brown belt at this point. Within a week, I had a fight to win. I hadn't trained since we were training for Pans here.
Oh, shoot. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I hadn't trained in months.
Yeah.
And all I was doing in off season was lifting and running.
Yeah.
Was that when all the fight to wins were in Dallas?
Yes. So that was it. So, and it's only like a 4-hour drive.
Yeah.
So the thing is, I did 2 fight to wins while I was still in Midlands. Like drove, fought, came back, and Marcus is in Dallas.
Yep.
And a childhood friend of my dad actually lives a little bit away from there, and he's like, "Hey, you can stay with me."
Oh, so cool.
And so I literally, after that, like I went there. I was in Dallas from like, I want to say like, it was like right after my birthday. So it was like the beginning of June to July. So I was in Texas for about 2 months, about a month in Midland and then about another month in Dallas. And then I was like, oh, I'm going to go over afterwards. I'll see Samir, spend a little bit of time there, and then I'll go over to Arizona. I ended up spending 1.5 years in California.
Whoa, nice.
And during this time, while I was in California, my family ended up moving down to Arizona.
Yep.
for a little bit, and they ended up kind of like what I was doing while I was bouncing around a little bit from state to state. They kind of did very similar, just trying to figure stuff out with, you know, jobs and stuff like that. Yeah, they were in Casa Grande for a little bit. They ended up going over to Arkansas for a little bit.
That's right. I remember that. Yeah.
But it was just the whole thing, like, it's a lot moving your family like that, especially when you're not, a lot of people move, they move for a job. Yeah. So there was a lot of figuring out between like training for my brother. My dad still had a job on the slope. So he was actually, well, part of it, he was recovering from surgery and an injury that he had done to his orbital socket when he was at work. When I left, I had no idea if my dad was gonna like literally die or not, or be blind. Like I almost canceled my flight when I was coming down because he had an injury at work and literally crushed his orbital. Oh my! Wow. He was going into surgery.
Wait, what was he do for a living?
So he works up on the North Slope, with some of it he was being an operator on up there, and then some of it right now he's working more with the big rigs up there, the trucks and everything. Okay. And sometimes driving on like the ice roads and stuff like that, which really? Is super dangerous. Yeah. So he was doing something and he was supposed to have a second person, and he basically slipped and fell and crushed completely all under here. Wow. Yeah, so when I left to move, I almost canceled it, and I was completely distraught. And keep in mind, my dad's literally in the hospital right now. My mom can't even be there, neither can I. Yeah. They emergency flew him to Anchorage from the North Slope. It was so bad, and we can't even be there because of how COVID is. Yeah. And keep in mind, I barely saw my dad before I left, and he just had this surgery. And the whole time they're telling me, because I was like, I'm just gonna cancel I'm not going. I can't. I can't. Yeah. And during this whole time, they're like, no, you need to go. Like, you've already done it. You being here isn't really gonna change anything. Don't get me, obviously the extra help would be nice, but it's not gonna change anything. Yeah. You should just go. And this is my mom and my dad. Wow. And just because you have the surgery, you don't know how it's gonna go. Yep. And those type of injuries are pretty extreme. Yeah. Yeah. So his literally almost the entire under, it's a newer surgery where they did it with like a plastic that kind of dissolves, and it helps everything kind of build back and everything like that. Whoa, which is cool. Is pretty cool. Yeah. But basically I had no idea how it was gonna go when I flew down. Wow. To go to Texas. That's stressful. Yeah. So and then I'm doing fight to wins. I'm fighting all while and trying to train with a friend of mine, but I've never actually trained at his gym before with his students. Yeah. And going through not knowing how my dad's going to recover and all of this stuff going on all at once. Yeah. Yeah. And Bruno and Hiko Bastos are two of the coolest people you'll ever meet. Yeah. They're awesome. Really cool. Yeah. I remember we were in, we did the New York Open. Nava and I and a few other people went and did the New York Open, and Hiko Bastos was one of the refs. Yeah. And it was so funny because he was reffing my finals match in no-gi, because we did gi day 1, no-gi day 2. Anyway, finals match in no-gi in the Open. And anyway, it's over. I won. And we meet up with him later on that night. And I was asking him, because he did a seminar at Paul's years ago. And I said, hey, you should come out and do another seminar, blah, blah, talking it up. And he goes, you want me to do another seminar? I'm like, yeah. He goes, you know what I should teach? And I was like, what? He goes, that butterfly guard, man. Yours needs a lot of help. He said he had to stop himself from coaching. He's like, no, not that. Don't do that. Okay, okay, that's.
I was just telling Kelsey that the butterfly guard works so well, but I am so bad at it.
Yeah. I hate butterfly guard.
I have a picture of him standing over us as we're rolling in that mat. He's like this. Just,
he's like, oh my God.
You roll with someone who has a good butterfly guard and you just feel helpless. Yeah. They're just underneath you, and then all of a sudden you're on your back. Yeah.
That's why you just shove their face away. Yeah. Have you not seen how I do? I literally go to the forehead and then under, and I just push it. I hate being in butterfly guard. I hate playing butterfly guard.
Do you really?
Okay. I hate it. Which is the funniest thing, because you'll look on Flow sometimes, you're like, Elisabeth Clay plays butterfly guard. I was like, no, I don't. I hate butterfly guard. I hate that guard. I had my feet on their knees. Yeah. That is not butterfly guard. True. I hate butterfly guard.
It's a great transition to single leg.
No, butterfly guard is wonderful. If you're good at it, it's great. Yeah. Part of the reason I hate it so much is because I spent time trying to be good at it. Yeah. I'm like, that's the guard I play if I want my guard passed. And I don't get my guard passed a ton. But if I want to get my guard passed, that's the guard that I play. I despise butterfly. I hate it.
I feel that way about deep half. I freaking hate deep
honestly,
half.
as much as I hate deep half, I prefer deep half over butterfly.
Whoa.
That's like, that's saying something.
Yeah.
Deep half depends on who's on top.
No, screw that. I freaking hate it.
No, I'm gonna go deep half, and then I'm just gonna bail out the back and try to jump on you.
Yeah.
That's my deep half.
That's it.
Or the waiter sweep. I love the waiter sweep.
I hate being in deep half. It's
I don't mind because I'm just gonna smash your face.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I'm okay with that because it's your face. It's your fault.
Yeah.
It kind of like usually ends up in like a cool scramble if you're like floating on top.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it can.
I'll just smash your face or guillotine you.
Yeah.
So either way, your face is gonna hurt.
Yeah. So let's kind of close the loop on where you're training now. Yep. So now you're in Goodyear.
Yes.
Right, Goodyear, Arizona, training with Queixinho. And tell me about the atmosphere in that gym right now. Tell me about the atmosphere. Tell me about the talent that's in there, the talent pool that's in there right now.
Well, I mean, the atmosphere changes, honestly, from the 11 a.m. to the night. The training's very different. The 11 a.m. is most of the time when all your competitors are coming in. Right now, the competitors aren't even coming in at 11. They're coming in at like 11:20 because the gi class is going on. And
Brazilians.
Queixinho told us never start on time.
Queixinho told us to come in at that time.
Okay.
Because he does it. Most of the people that are in the 11 that aren't training no gi they're training gi. It's mostly white belts.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really make sense to kind of actually split the class 50-50 when it's polar opposites.
Yeah.
So basically, as the other class is starting to end, the actual 11 a.m. class is when the no gi with more of your competitors is actually kind of starting to go. So usually it's around 11:20, 11:30ish, and then it kind of just depends on the day. A lot of times it's mostly just like situational and rolling. Yeah, is most of how it's going.
Yeah. So pretty much every Aries black belt that's in Arizona, I mean, trains there. I mean, right? All the adults,
not us.
all the adults,
all the adults,
all the adult black belts there. What's that? What is that training like? Like, I know you said situational and stuff like that, but what's the intensity like? Are you guys kind of cool? Is it kind of flowy? Or is it like, is it just killers for an hour? What does that look like?
I mean, if you're actually like for the morning training, it's definitely that harder pace, and if other people are being more chill, if you come in and sit off on the side, normally you'll see me and Danilo are already going live. Yeah. Whether it's situational live or actually rolling, everybody else will kind of like, if they're in like we're just gonna drill type thing, you'll literally like hear me and Danilo basically are trying to kill each other off on the side.
Yeah. That's cool.
So, like before a big competition, I'll get my drilling in and that type of stuff at night. Yeah. I'm not here for that type of thing, and if the other competitors or some of the other kind of some of your lower belts that are competing as well want to do that and drill and kind of be a little bit more chill, that's fine. But me and Danilo and David, honestly, it'll literally be like sometimes it's like the three of us, or sometimes Josh is in there as well, and it'll be like the four of us. We're literally just rotating back and forth while everyone else is kind of still drilling. Yeah. And you have us, and we're like literally, hey, you want to roll? Yeah, let's just roll. Yeah. Or the other day, me and Danilo, while everybody else was still drilling before the situational actually started, just started doing situational anyway.
Nice. Yeah. Nice.
Like, let's just go ahead and
do you guys drill at home? Practice at home or any of that kind of stuff?
Not really. It's mostly in the gym, and that's honestly, I've never been a huge one of training at home unless I might change it now just because I've always had access to the gym. Yeah. So if I ever wanted to go in, I could always just go in. Yeah.
I mean, it's the reason I ask is like, all of us have, significant others that do jiu-jitsu. It's like, I don't ever like feel like I want to train like with, Kelsey outside of class. It's just like, it's like classes for class. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I just need to shut it off sometimes.
But I've seen couples who are like at home in their like, they move the coffee table and they're in their living room and they're drilling and practicing stuff.
Yeah, but I think like you said, Liz,
I don't drill.
Yeah.
I mean, not with me and Danilo don't. I mean, I drill at night. Me and Danilo don't drill together a ton, if that makes sense. If there's a specific thing, then that's different. If we've honestly talked about, because I have mats anyway, sponsored by Zebra, so I have really nice mats.
Hey. Shout out to Zebra.
There you go.
Shout out to Zebra. They're based out of like
never heard of them.
Minnesota.
Yeah.
Or are they really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those guys have been sponsoring me since I was 16.
That's cool,
That's
man.
awesome.
That's
Like,
cool. Yeah.
They've been with me a long time.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And then they do right by you. They're good to you.
They're awesome.
Yeah.
But we've actually talked about, just because there's not really training on the weekends, which is something I'm honestly not used to. I'm used to training at 6 days a week is usually what I would do, just to have one day off. But honestly, having like the 2 days off, I don't really like.
Yeah.
So we've talked about kind of like how the heck we're gonna move stuff for us to be able to train on like one of the days on the weekends, but it wouldn't be us drilling. We would literally just roll. Turn on the round, go pajada for like half an hour to an hour, and then like, hey, we're done. I don't want to sit there and drill and stuff. I feel like we're going to end up arguing. I'd rather just roll. Let's just roll. Don't kick the wall because we're renting. Yeah. And then like, and then that's it. And then we're good.
That's good.
But aside from like, honestly, I think the only time we really, really drill together, if it's like, hey, I want to do this specific thing. And what's nice is him and I actually have very different, I feel like our games have started to get more similar because we actually help each other. Yeah. But what we're good at is polar opposite.
Yeah. Well, he's extremely well-rounded.
Yeah.
Like man, and none of his rolls look the same.
Yeah. No, they don't. But like what we actually do is very, now it's gotten more similar, I think, just from training together and that type of thing. But if you look like probably back about 2 years, what we do is very different.
Yeah.
Which is kind of nice because he can ask me about things that I'm basically the stuff he would want to ask about is the stuff I'm good at. Yeah. And vice versa. Like the stuff that like I actually not that there isn't things I drill that I'm already good at, because there are, but if it's something that like, hey, there's just berimbolo, when I go like this, like I'm not as good at inverting with stuff like that. Yeah. That's just not that I can't do it, because like I have and I've done it even in competition, but I wouldn't say that that's the thing that I'm the best at by any means. Yeah. And that's that he's good at that type of stuff. Yeah. And that's the kind of stuff that it pisses me off. I'm like, I don't want to drill this. I hate this. But it
butterfly guard. Yeah. Fucking butterfly guard.
And vice versa. So that's like the only time me and him drill together. Night class, that type of stuff, I drill more, but he doesn't train in the night.
My favorite drilling partners are Dan and Andrea Enzing. Oh my God. They are
my
favorite.
So much. God. They argue. All I know is sometimes I look over and I'm gonna hear this. Like, oh my God.
Oh, when they're in the morning, I tell Kelsey all the time, I'm like, I just got to walk away from them.
Put your foot there. It is there. No, it's not. It is. I'm putting my foot there. No, you're not.
No, the joke with me and Danilo is they're like, you and him don't know how to go light. Like, you guys just go 100% all of it. He broke my leg. You remember when my leg was broken like last year?
That was him?
Yeah, he broke my leg.
Shit.
But, I mean, you know when his knees are kind of messed up sometimes?
For everyone that's not a jiu-jitsu person, she's totally safe. I'm sure it was a training accident. She's a professional athlete.
It was 100. He went for a toe hold, and it was a weird angle, and like my leg should not have broken.
Gotcha.
And it was just a small bone on the outside that broke.
Yeah, just a little one.
They break.
They just break.
They're not even there for a reason.
What are you gonna do? They're small. Anyway.
No, but like I can't say anything because sometimes when his knees are a little messed up, it's because he wouldn't tap. I tap.
Those guys don't tap, man.
No. Well, I literally when he broke my leg, he literally was like holding it like this.
Oh.
And I was like, I hate you. Because the thing is, like, I hate, but not really, because it shouldn't have broken when he did it. My foot was in a weird spot, and he went to toe hold it, not to actually get the finish, but just for me to let go of the guard so that he could pass, and, like, it just broke.
Toe holds are so weird.
They are weird, man.
I've seen people, like, and they're, like, bones popping out of their leg.
His toe holds are really strong.
Yeah.
If he, like, they're really, really strong.
Yeah.
And, like, it just broke.
Yeah.
But I can't say anything because I might have popped his knees a few times. And like not like little pops either. Yeah. Like he wasn't tapping and there was time, and like so I just you're a black belt.
We all have a choice. Yeah. We all make a choice.
I did it right before competition, and it literally popped, and I like then he tapped, and I was like, "You're an idiot. Have a competition in a week," and he's like, "It's gonna be fine."
Yeah.
And then he went to compete, and somebody attacked that, and it popped again, and I was like, you know why it popped? So he taps now, though.
Yeah,
like it's a lot, but it literally like it took.
He's gonna last longer. Yeah. Now, how old is he? 22, 23 maybe?
He's 25.
25? Oh,
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
40?
Yeah.
40.
He's 48.
He's 48. You didn't know that?
He ages really well. But listen, a couple of things I want to cover. One of them is, I always ask like people, the 12 people that listen to the show, what questions I could ask, and a lot of people that replied were asking like, what's it like coming up through jiu-jitsu, I hate to call it male dominated, but mostly male, right? As a woman. What does that look like in any roadblocks that you hit? I mean, it seems like you're a tough roll no matter what. So I don't know that you hit a lot of the roadblocks that most people hit, right? But is there something that you can talk about that women may want to hear and maybe encourage them a little bit to want to actually start doing jiu-jitsu?
Honestly, I think the biggest problem that you have is when you start singling stuff out like that. I think part of the reason I didn't have a problem with it, I have 6 brothers.
Yeah.
I grew up very much in that. And with what I'm going to say right now, I know I'm going to step on some feet. I don't like the women's only stuff.
Okay.
I don't like it at all.
That's okay to say. That's okay to say.
And not that I'm going to sit there and be like, you're wrong for doing it. However, I've literally taught maybe 2 women's only things, and that's it. And for the most part, I refuse to teach women's only things. Even if I get asked to do a women's only seminar, I ask to do co-ed instead because I understand the thought process behind it. However, I think what it ends up doing is actually more harm than good because you run into the thing. I think from growing up with brothers, I think about it in a different way. I would be pissed if they had men's only.
Yeah.
Right.
I would be pissed. But the thing is, if you're doing women's only, by it being fair, and the whole point of women's only is because you want equality and all that stuff, right?
Sure.
Well, by it being equal, then there should be men's only.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, right, I'd be pissed with that.
Yeah.
I would be so angry, especially I think having brothers, I always had that, like, I didn't want to be excluded.
Right.
So I always had, like, a different perspective on it.
Yeah.
And like growing up in training, I never had, you always hear, I'm the only girl. It's so hard. That never made sense to me because I always was like, I don't understand why that's such a problem.
Yeah.
I don't understand why you don't want to train with the men. Not that it isn't fun to have other girls there.
Sure.
And I get that. However, I think when you start looking at it like it's a problem or like a poor me type thing, it really does become that.
Yeah.
And I
You're
think
almost talking yourself into that, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
And the thing is, a lot of things aren't necessarily the actual, here's what it is. A lot of it is the mentality and the mindset that you bring to it.
Yeah.
And if you listen to any like motivational speaking and anything, not on women's things, but in general, 90% of the time, what they're going to tell you, it's not even what you're doing. It's the mentality you bring to it.
Yeah, what you're
while
saying
you're
to
doing
yourself.
it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge thing that we've gotten to is while trying to make it more of an accessible thing, if anything, it's almost made the problems worse because you by doing the women's only, by making it, well, let's ask things about just for the women that the women go through struggle-wise, you're really honestly isolating the women from the rest of the people, which and are men.
Yeah.
But it's you're separating it. Now, if you want to talk about women have different issues as far as training through, we have menstrual cycles,
right.
bras, stuff like that. That's very different because that is an actual women's only thing.
Yeah.
That women deal with.
I hear about it all the time.
Yeah.
Amy talks to me about it all the time.
When the guys ask her, like, on Thursday, why'd you miss training? I was in bed cramping, almost dying from my period. Like
and it affects your weight during competitions.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
now, if you want to talk about stuff like that, that's completely different because that is an actual women's thing.
Yeah.
But I don't agree with the whole, you're the only girl that has to train with guys. That's so sad.
Right.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
I don't understand why that's exactly.
Yeah.
They're just you don't want to be treated any different because you're a woman on the mat. However, you're treating yourself different.
Yeah, yeah. That's interesting. No, I've never thought of it that way. That's interesting. Yeah.
I've always kind of thought of it as like, you're like you said, you're limiting your partners, but you're self-limiting your partners.
Yeah.
If like you're
exactly.
Because there are women that come, I've seen women who join, either, Nava's or your school that will pretty much exclusively try to only do the women's classes.
Yep.
And it's like, you're missing out on so many people. But I get like there's a comfort level, like, and some people have, traumas, the kind of things where they're not comfortable, like, being that close to men that they don't know, especially.
It's one thing if you start like that. However, most of your women that have the problems with that are also in jiu-jitsu for self-defense reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
For the most part, you're worried about a man attacking you on the street, right?
Yeah.
You think training with another 120-pound female is going to help you and prepare you for that?
Probably not.
And also get you over, you have trauma training with guys that are safe. How bad do you think you're going to freak out if somebody actually grabs you on the street?
Sure. That's a very good point, man. Yeah. That's a very good point.
Well, I mean, that's like what everyone always talks about jiu-jitsu, being comfortable in the uncomfortable. It's like
that's the whole point of it. But then you want to get the whole thing, well, let's take away everything that makes this one person uncomfortable. Now, do I think you should pick, if you have trauma, you should pick some people that you feel safe with and explain to them so that they are aware what is going on.
Yeah.
I had a female training partner when I first started training who had serious trauma from when she was a child.
Yeah.
And she would panic when anyone had her in bottom.
Yeah.
But it would literally you would get there, and we had conversations. It's just something, people did. But would literally sit there and mount and like basically be smothering her with your chest and then be like, you just have to breathe.
Yeah.
And like I wasn't the only she asked me to do this, but I wasn't the only one. Some of the guys would do this as well.
Yeah.
Because it was some of the only way for her to get over this.
Wow.
And this is years into her training. She's still having problems with this.
Yeah.
Now if you freak out, you get in a position you can't handle, you tap, you get out. That's the thing that's great about jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
But I think that you should be working through it and not kind of pigeonholing yourself, which is I think a lot of what happens.
Yeah. And there's ways to roll. Like if I'm rolling with a kid, right, I'm gonna roll a certain way. I'm gonna play a lot of guard. Maybe get to my side, let them play. If I'm rolling with somebody smaller than me, male or female, I roll a certain way. There's always something you can do when you're training, right? As long as you're communicating, like you said, she had, the girl had trouble, but you communicate to your training partners, like, it's just like having a bum shoulder.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, hey, don't attack this. Hey, I'm having issues with whatever. We're all like literally brothers and sisters on that mat. You know what I mean?
Figuratively.
And figuratively, yeah. But I mean, when you're talking to each other, I think the one thing that bothers me the most is when men won't just roll when they're rolling with women.
Yeah.
They just won't roll. And it's like,
well, when they treat them like kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, dude, you can get training in. You can get training in.
Yeah. So I've had a ton of experience as far as that goes. I have had a ton of experience with that. I remember when I did switch schools to Legacy.
God.
I was intentionally, I'd been training 4.5 years at this point. So I had plenty of experience. I knew how to piss people off. And I got there and they weren't training hard with me.
I know exactly where this was.
Oh yeah.
I literally heel hooked in the gi to be a jerk because I knew this was gonna piss people off. I heel hooked the professor.
Oh shoot. Okay.
And I started toe holding everyone else.
Nice.
Because it wasn't like I did it right off the bat, like they weren't training with me.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I'm not gonna win anything off of this. I'm not gonna get any better either. Like this is I'm literally wasting my time right now.
Yeah.
And if you literally talk to Jordan, he'll be like, yeah, she heel hooked me the first day. And after that, I've tried to smash her face into the mat.
Nice.
And I was like, good, that's what I wanted.
Yeah.
And I remember the guys like being nice with me, and I was like, I'm gonna rip this toe hold because it's gonna make you mad. And like I was well aware of it was literally calculated.
Yeah.
Everything. I was like, you're gonna be nice to me. I'm gonna wait and I'm gonna act. So this is me being a jerk, and this really proves me being the middle child. And this didn't just happen there. I had one when I was training in California, and this like I can't remember purple or brown belt. I think brown belt because I was a purple belt.
Okay.
And he's like super nice, like shot in all nice. So I like went to the back like I didn't know what I was doing, like.
Yeah.
And then when I grabbed the choke, I ripped it as hard as I could. And we got up, and I just remember being like, basically, if you're going to be stupid, you better be tough.
Yeah.
Like, why did you let me do that? Well, I didn't think you were that good. Well,
yeah.
You should have thought better.
Yeah. I've fallen victim to that choke. She's not nice. She's not nice. So this is how the choke happened. This is how I pissed her off. So after she...
I thought she pissed you off.
No. Oh, no. You kidding? So after she had tapped me out with ankle lock and toe hold and knee bar and blah, 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 leg. We restart, and I'm like, you haven't passed my guard yet.
It's like, oh, okay.
Do you even know how to play on top?
Do you know how to pass the guard? I was like, I got you.
So anyway, she passes my guard. Yeah, and next thing you know, she's on my back, and I'm getting choked out. Yeah. So Yeah, don't you worry. I got something for you.
No,
Liz can't get on my back. So
that's because you tap too fast to the toe hold.
That's the one thing I don't tap to. Maybe the heel hook.
What do you mean? You do tap to the toe hold with me. Maybe not with other people.
Both of my toes or ankles have been popped. It's like, no, they don't. You have to be real hard.
Anymore?
Yeah. Yeah, I still feel it. Yeah, anyway. But okay, one thing I want to cover. I want to make sure we talk about what your training looks like, because I mean you're super fit. How do you do it? How do you get in shape? Like when you've got your majors, right? Mm-hmm. You've got your ADCCs; those are every other year. You got your worlds, you got your pans, gi and no gi. Are all the other tournaments just kind of filler for those 4, or do you take every single tournament seriously? You peak for every single one. How do you do that? How do you train?
Well, I don't fight opens like at all.
Okay.
Because of the fact that I'm just too busy with other ones.
Yeah.
So most of the ones that I'm fighting are majors. Like the last ones have been no-gi pans. This will be no-gi worlds, and then I'll have Europeans beginning of the year, and then possibly an AJP in London. So all of those are pretty big ones.
Yeah.
So I try to peak for all of them. That's why I also don't fight the opens as much, because now it would be different if I didn't have as many, like, I can get a super fight instead of fighting an open.
Yeah.
So basically there's just never a need for me to.
Yeah.
Just because I'm always busy with big ones. So I always try to peak for those because they're all big ones.
Yeah.
Which, again, doesn't always work, but I don't compete every single month for that reason. Right? I try not to.
Yeah.
Sometimes it doesn't always work that way.
Yeah. Is there any sponsor pressure on that? Any of your sponsors go like, hey,
no.
you got, okay, cool, very cool.
I've had them ask me like, hey, you have something coming up, basically pay for it, but I've never had sponsors actually push me. In fact, I think most of my sponsors know. They kind of yell at me sometimes because I fight when I'm hurt and I shouldn't be fighting. So if anything, it's the opposite, because especially like the ones that have been sponsoring me for a long time and know me really well, especially like Zebra, they're always like, you're always competing even when you shouldn't be. Yeah. So I've never had pressure with that, but I also think that's because I'm also extremely picky when it comes to my sponsors. I was without a gi sponsor for like 2 years, purely because of the fact I wasn't going to sign something that I wasn't happy with.
Okay.
Yeah. And with it, I had multiple companies within there that like we went to work it out, and like not even necessarily attitude, like maybe the gi was something I didn't like, or I had one that literally told me that he couldn't pay me as much as I wanted because the female market wasn't there, and then later came back and he's like, well, I'm doing this other company and I'd like to sponsor you. And I was like, I don't want you to sponsor me because I'm not representing a company like that.
Yep. Yeah. Good for you.
But as far as the training, the amount that I train pretty much stays the same.
Okay.
Throughout it. So usually it's twice a day, Monday through Friday, and then I lift at least 3 times a week.
Okay. And do you go to just a regular big box gym, or do you have a trainer, or what do you do?
I just literally go to EOS and lift. I've been lifting for like 6 years now. Okay. So I know my body really well. I think if you don't know your body, that's a very different thing.
Yeah.
But I've gone through very different. I started with a very traditional type of powerlifting, and now I do way more kettlebell work and keeping the reps basically as high as I can while keeping the weight as heavy as I can while doing that. So my normal rep range is between 15 and 20.
Okay.
With 5 sets of that.
Okay. Nice.
But I still lift as heavy as I can with that. So it's still like, like the adductors and abductors.
Yep.
I do 5 sets of 15 with the entire stack.
Wow.
So, like, it's still heavy.
Yeah.
Just to give it mine, because I think when you say that you do higher up, a lot of people think that the weight is going to be insanely light, and it's not. Now, it depends. I would say my upper body's not as strong for curls. It's only like 20, 25 pounds.
Yeah.
But I also do 15 reps of that.
Yeah.
So
that's still respectable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's still, as far as high as the reps are, it's still decently heavy for that, especially I only fight middleweight. Like, I'm not a huge person. So as far as the lifting, I did very traditional powerlifting to start, and I got strong. However, it hit the point that I would be lifting more in the gym. My knees hurt so bad the next day, but it wasn't even just that. Like, I was strong in the fact I could hold you there, or I could like pick you up and it would be strong. However, when it came to actually moving with the strength, I didn't have that, and I didn't like that.
Wasn't functional.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't functional. Yeah. So I switched, and when I lifted like this very traditional powerlifting, you lift very low rep, and extremely heavy.
Yeah.
And I literally went the opposite way after doing that, because I would squat almost every single day.
Oof.
And like,
that's a lot.
Like over 200 pounds at like 5 of 5.
Yeah.
Which is low rep, but like when it's that heavy, it has to be.
Yeah.
And I completely went the opposite way, where I was like, we're doing kettlebell swings and reverse kettlebell swings, and I will do 5 sets of 15 of each and I do still go heavier. I've actually recently lowered the weight because I was kind of still doing it with like a 65 or a 70 pound, which is a little heavier than you should be doing it with. So I lowered it to a 50.
Okay. All right.
A 45 or a 50.
That's still
heavy.
Yeah.
But it's still comparatively to how I was lifting. I changed it a lot just to be able to keep that higher rep range. But I still like lifting heavy.
That's cool.
My thought is I lift as heavy as I can while still keeping in the correct form and the reps.
Yeah.
If you have to stop in the middle, that's it. You're too heavy.
Yeah.
You need to go lighter.
Yeah.
And basically that's and I do use some of the machines, all of that. I have 4 different workouts that I go between.
Okay.
So I have 2 leg days technically, but one works the majority of the legs, and then the other leg days, like my hamstrings and then adductors and abductors is mostly what I work on the other one. Then I have my back day, and then I have, bis and tris and shoulders.
Nice.
Yeah. And that's basically what I lift for all of it. The only thing that I do lower reps sometimes is my back day is generally a little bit of a lower rep. Usually it's around 5 to 10.
Okay.
Usually staying around 10. There's only one exercise I do at 5. And just because it's such a big muscle that I like going heavier on it, and it's worked for me, especially because I still have the high rep when I'm lifting lower legs or my legs, and I still have that explosiveness there.
Right on. What do you do for cardio?
I don't.
She trains her
That's
ass
pretty
off.
common.
I train.
That's pretty common.
I think, and that's where it changes when I have a competition coming up versus the other, is how I roll is different. While the roll still might be the same, or the amount that I'm training, it might still be the same when I don't have a competition coming up. How I'm training changes. And I think if you've trained with me when I have a competition coming up and when I don't, you can feel a difference.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Just with how I train and what I train in mine. Like, if I don't have a competition coming up, I'm not sitting there counting the points all the time.
Right.
I'm counting that when I have a competition
Yep.
coming up, and I mean down to the advantage.
Yeah, same
That's
here.
so underrated, right?
Same here. Yeah.
Counting points.
Yeah. No,
Like,
I mean,
being able
you
to
have
do that,
yeah.
like, I think it does. It has a couple of things. I think it's like it's good to know that, like, you're paying attention to points if you're going to play points.
Yeah, well, and I watch the clock too. I'll sit there and I'll be like, hey, I'm down right now by 1 advantage. I need to sweep in the last this many seconds, because if I come up before that, they'll have a chance to sweep me back. So I need to sweep under this much, so I have just enough time to come up, solidify my points, but not enough time to get swept back.
So you're still working strategy.
Always.
Yeah. That's cool.
But it also like helps like keep people's mindset like from getting like so tunnel visioned on one thing.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously at your level, that's not something to be concerned with, because you've worked through all that stuff already. But people coming up who are learning white belts, blue belts, it's like it's real easy to just be like, I'm trying to knee cut.
Yeah.
Very easy.
Or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
And they get really like set in that like one little technique that they're trying to work.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you can start, you open yourself up a little bit, I think that helps a lot.
For sure.
That helps with my jiu-jitsu.
Definitely.
Like in tournaments, I listen to people's voices, not because I want to listen to what they're saying, but just because it kind of takes me not out of the match, because you want to be in the
tunnel
match.
vision.
Exactly. Yeah.
So the reason I asked a question, and I wanted to get I want to kind of hear your reaction, because when you talk to certain people, like oh, when it comes to Worlds, like I go all in, and when it comes to this one, I go all in, and it sounds like whether it's Worlds, Pans, ADCC, your training regimen doesn't really change.
Not
You're
really.
pretty consistent.
I think I would say the only difference is I think other people's changes when other things come up, which honestly, if it's frustrating as an athlete, that's frustrating.
Yeah.
Because even other athletes aren't necessarily as focused, or maybe they don't do the same competitions you do, or that type of thing. And like, honestly, that's a thing I get extremely frustrated with, because I want it to always be like how it is before Worlds.
Yeah.
But you're completely right. A lot of people don't. They're like, oh, before Worlds, I go super hard. Outside of that, I'm going to go train when I want, or even if I'm there, I'm not training the same amount, or it's not the same people, or that type of thing. And as for me personally, and every person and every athlete's different. But for me, honestly, that stuff really pisses me off.
Yeah.
And like, it's frustrating. It's because there's only so much you can do because you need training partners.
Yeah.
And
they're your tools. They're
exactly.
training tools. Yeah.
And I have my brother and I have Danilo, and like, however, we have very, when you're training with the exact same game style, and I'm smaller than both of them.
Yep.
There's at least a 10 to 15 pound difference between Danilo and I, and there's like a 50-pound difference between me and my brother.
17, by the way.
There's like a 50-pound difference. Yeah. And the thing is, those are the two people I know I can always count on.
Yeah.
However, for anyone that training with a significant other is one thing, training hard with them is another thing.
Yeah.
Training hard with them when they're all you have is another thing on top of that.
Yeah.
Think about the arguments you have when both of you are professional athletes.
Oh yeah, no, I can imagine.
And you have completely different necessarily thought processes on how you do things
and schedules.
Yes,
you may have a super fight, he may not. Right?
Exactly. And the thing is, luckily for both of us, we pretty much always can kind of be like, hey, I have this coming up, and like I even told him because he's not doing Europeans, and I am.
Okay.
And I told him, I was like, hey, right after Nogi Worlds, like, you can't take a break because I can't.
Yeah.
And everybody else is going to. I know everybody else is going to be basically taking a break. And I told him, I was like, I don't care if we have to go get the mats out of storage. Like, you can't take off because I have Europeans, and Europeans is hard.
That's awesome.
And
for those who don't know, Danilo is like one of the best black belts in the world.
In the world. Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Power couple here. Like,
yeah. So I mean, you're set with a training partner, right?
Yeah.
But like you said, you get the same look every time.
Exactly. Right. Well, and the argument, we like, most of our arguments come from training.
Yeah.
And it happens when we're overly, because you have you're extra sensitive when it comes to a couple on both sides. Like he'll think I'm mad about something that I'm not mad about, or I get upset over.
That's kind of how you train, though. You always look mad when you're training.
I do. So I always look mad anyway when I'm training. And then you add in that sometimes he's like, you gave me this look when we were training. I was like, but I'm not mad.
Yeah.
Or maybe he hit me in the face and didn't say sorry. And I'm like, you're a jerk. Why didn't you say sorry? He's like, but we're training. I was like, yeah, I literally just wanted you, sorry, and keep going.
Yeah.
Like that's all I wanted.
By the way, you do that for everybody, right? You hit him in the face, my bad. And you just keep going.
Exactly. Yeah. But the thing is, but you have that, and he's like, but it's you know it was an accident. I was like, exactly. If it was on purpose, you don't say sorry.
Yeah. At that point, the sorry's not worth anything.
Exactly. Well, and I was like,
sorry, I purposely punched you in the face.
Yeah, sorry, I punched you in the face. That hurt. But like, it's like little stupid stuff like that. But when you're training at that level, like that, and then you go home with it, and I'm like, I hate you.
Yeah.
But like, it only gets like that when we basically have to train almost 100% with each other, which sometimes that's the case.
Yeah.
And it definitely adds. While I'm very lucky to have him and even to have my brother, because either one of them I could call at any point in time and we go train, whether they have something coming up or not.
Right.
And it's the same. They were to ask. But there's definitely still that added stress, you know, when you're training with a sibling or significant other, especially at that level, when you're just, you know, he-heing around.
Yeah.
It's very different than when you're training at that point. And people literally joke. They're like, you and Danilo, I don't think it's a joke. Like you literally, both of you look like you're trying to murder the other one.
Yeah.
And but the thing is, we can both train like that with each other, thankfully. And not that you don't still have arguments and stuff like that, because you do. But like I'm definitely very lucky with that, because especially with after Nogi Worlds with Europeans coming up, I know barely anybody's going to be training because I'm pretty sure I'm the only one going.
Wow. Yeah, and that's that's when the troops got to rally, right? I mean, you got to find some people that'll be willing to I hate to say sacrifice, but at least help you.
Not take their time off.
Yes, and use you can use them as training partners, stuff like that. But it's so freaking hard.
It's hard,
man. When you go all in on something, all you want to do is shut it down after.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. And so like I understand the other side of it, but it's still frustrating.
Yeah.
So it's kind of both sides of it.
So you mentioned earlier how like well-rounded Danilo's like game is. Do you ever use him to analog, like especially for the super fights? Obviously, for something like Worlds, like you don't know who you're gonna fight necessarily, but like for like a super fight,
he'll go and watch. I don't.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's the same thing. Like if Queixinho will go and watch something, or Danilo, he'll be like, "Hey, do you want me to go like look up some stuff?" Or even so, I don't even ask him sometimes.
So he studies.
He'll literally, he'll just go and look to see what they do.
Yeah.
And does he give you that look?
He'll try to.
Okay. Yeah.
Sometimes he gets mad because it doesn't work as well. It's like his A game.
Yeah.
And he'll be like, I'm not doing that because then you just submit me. He's like, so I'm going to do what I'm good at. And I was like, that doesn't help me.
Yeah. You're defeating the purpose, Danilo.
So sometimes there's a little bit of a back and forth there, but for the most part, he'll go and watch and then be like, hey, I need to do this so that you have that to look for.
Yeah. Right. That's awesome.
That's pretty valuable too. Like, I mean,
I don't study.
Yeah.
I don't watch matches. Yeah. I don't like, it just, I think for the most part, you cannot look at it from a non-biased standpoint.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you're looking at it for yourself.
Yeah.
Maybe other people are different. I think some people can get away with studying, and looking at opponents and that type of thing. But I think for the most part, you can't look at it from a non-biased standpoint. You're either going to go and be like, they suck, or the opposite, where you're going to look at something and then you're going to be so worried about it, you're not going to play your own game. So I always think it's best to have a third party kind of look at it.
Yeah, I know, man.
At Worlds.
So she look at everything?
No. So she second guessed herself in the final.
Oh no!
And it cost her the final. She got trapped, and this girl was yoked.
But she second guessed herself because of what she heard.
Yes. Yeah.
So I literally have taken phones away from teammates before. Yeah. I'm not kidding. Like I'm like, you're not allowed to look. If I see you looking at it, you don't get your phone back.
Yeah.
I will take your phone. I will treat you like a child and take your phone away from you.
So Amy, she's been working on a collar drag for a few years. Like it's legit. She's got a good and she's strong, right? So she collar drags the first girl. I mean, collar dragged the crap out of the first girl. And then, so it was small bracket. She's in the final. And then she heard one of the other girl's teammates go, she's going to try to collar drag you. So Amy's like, well, maybe I shouldn't do it now.
Oh, my God.
Right? And got away from her A game. Got away from her A game. And so I was like, you don't do that.
But she would have smashed this girl's face into the ground if she did it. She would have totally 100%.
But that's like, put your headphones on. Don't listen to anyone else.
Yeah.
Right. Like, don't look at stuff.
Were you at Master Worlds? I don't remember if you saw you.
I ended up not going because I was training for ADCC.
Oh, okay.
So it was kind of cool. They had they had chairs on one side of the mats for all the coaches, but it was separate from where the athletes hung out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because if we were able to be like right next to Amy and she would have said that, we'd been like, no,
do your thing.
Yep,
you're collar dragging her.
So all we could do was sit because we were in this corral, basically, right? And there's only one way in and out, so you got to walk all the way, and then you could lose your seat and not get your seat.
Yeah.
So we had to just sit there and wait, and then as she's walking back, I could see it. We could see it in her eyes. Like there's something different because the first one she was like dead.
Good.
I mean, she was murder. And the second one, she's like, I could see the wheels turning, and she was second guessing herself. And I wish we could have had a chance to coach her up. But
I mean, who knows? But we both were like, if we could have, she would have got the gold.
Yeah.
I need to not coach her because I'm a freaking maniac.
It was so funny. People are walking in front.
I was losing my shit.
No. I hate coaching David or Danilo. Like we literally all of us. If he has to coach me, he hates it. Like we're there and we're like, no. Like we'll obviously do it if we have to.
Yeah.
I almost yelled at a random chick, and like for anybody, like if you see me coach, like I'm super chill for the most part.
Yeah.
But I thought it was Anessa that said something, and it turned out so it was one of the kids from Nebraska that was over here training with us, and him and David ended up competing against each other.
Oh.
And it was one of the kids' teammates.
Yeah.
And I thought it was Anessa, one of my teammates.
Yeah.
And I literally turned around, turned around to tell her to shut up. I turned, and she's there, she's like, and I realized afterwards, and I was like, whatever, and like kept coaching. But like I hate coaching David. I hate coaching Danilo. Like the amount of anxiety that like most people, I can coach pretty much anyone, and I'm chilling.
Right.
But when it comes to those two, the amount of anxiety that I get, and I'm sure it's very similar for you.
Yeah. We're so emotionally invested in it that I can't handle it.
Yeah. And I'm like, I don't, when like Queixinho or Samiro come, I'm like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Like someone else would be like, oh, you want to coach? I'm like, no, I don't want to coach. Why are you going to ask? Like that sounds horrible to me.
Yeah.
That sounds like hell.
Yeah. Like, I was losing my shit.
It was funny.
Yeah.
Like people walk by, like you need to fucking walk by right now.
No, I get in the front. I get in the front and I'm like this.
Yeah.
With my
don't.
Yeah. Oh
like just.
But there's no railing. It's like literally mats and then chairs. And
I
sometimes
would
you can walk in front, sometimes you can walk in back.
Yeah.
It depends on which.
See, it's a good thing I wasn't there. Luckily, neither one of them are masters.
Yeah,
because I would have lost my shit.
Yeah,
and that's not necessarily a good look, especially when. Well, especially sometimes I've been coaching before, and I've had people come up like asking for a picture, and I'm like,
yeah,
I'm busy.
Yeah.
I'm busy. Well, that's not even the worst. I had someone ask me when I came. I literally had just came off the mat from competing. This is at Nogi Pans, and I still had more matches. I just came out of the bullpen to have Danilo like roll out my forearms because at Nogi Pans, it's like up.
Yep.
So you can't have them like roll out your forearms or anything within there. So he like came down to roll out my forearms. I'm literally on my knees with my hands on the table, like dripping sweat, like on the table where they have the board, and like on my knees doing it. And this girl comes up and asks for a picture.
Oh.
And like, I say yes, I take the picture, and like goes away. And I was like, I'm still like, like I'm still obviously like my head is, my forearms are not only on the table, I'm on my knees. My head is on the table with them out while he's like just rolling out my forearms.
Yeah. You know, yes, it's probably the worst.
How many people
time.
asked to take pictures with you?
0.
Okay,
including my wife. 0.
She's
I'll
like,
take
no.
a picture with you.
But you know, there's a time and a place. But
Yes.
you know, I always think like that could be a kid from Alaska
exactly.
that
Well,
can
and
only get to California once a year.
And I always if you've ever seen, I always take the pictures.
Absolutely.
I'm never like,
yeah.
Because I understand, like, it's nerve wracking asking somebody for a picture anyway.
Yeah.
And I also know when you're that nervous about something, or if you are, that you can kind of not read social cues or other things just because you're nervous. This is not a bit, and this is coming from somebody that has like, I get pretty bad social anxiety.
Yeah.
So this is not me judging people by any means.
Yeah.
I do wish it is something that people looked more for. I love when people come and take pictures, so don't take this as me saying I don't, because I literally post all the time, like, come up and ask for a picture.
Yeah,
all the time, because I understand how that goes when you see someone you want to take a picture.
Yeah.
Or just talk to them, whatever.
Yeah.
However, this is also our jobs.
Yep.
Like, not just me in general, like any of your athletes, like this is our job as well. You wouldn't go up to a famous person at their job and ask them for a picture,
Right.
Yeah.
Right? Like you're not
in the zone at that time.
Exactly. Now there's being at the venue doesn't mean anything. You come up and ask me for a picture.
Yeah.
However, if you see I have my headphones in, and you can tell, like, not just headphones in like normal, you can tell a difference when someone has their headphones in just listening to music, chilling, or has their headphones in and is getting in the zone.
Yeah.
If I'm dripping in sweat right now, literally, like,
probably a bad time.
Or like wait until right after I'm coaching someone, or if I'm literally sprinting from one end of the venue to the other to catch someone's match.
Yeah.
Because David and Danilo were literally fighting one and then the other, and they were completely opposite sides.
That's always fun.
Well, and what's wonderful is I was fighting later.
Oh, shit. Yeah.
And I wasn't just fighting weight. I was fighting my division as well, and I'm sprinting back and forth.
Coaching and competing at the same time is
on the same day.
Yeah.
Well, and what's lovely is at Nogi Worlds, so not only do Danilo and I fight the same day, David fights the same day as well.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Well, and I'm fighting open weight as well. I'm
Yeah.
not just fighting my weight class, which means we have to be there at the start.
Yeah. So I wanted to clarify that, because you said you don't fight opens. Now, what I think you mean is like the Austin Open,
Austin
the Dallas
Open, that type
the
of stuff.
actual tournament. She does do the
Open
open
weight.
class,
Yes,
open weight
absolute.
class, and wins it most of the time. At least when I see
try.
it. Yeah. So So tell me about. I want to talk about super fights real quick.
Mm-hmm.
So you do several super fights. I mean, you're in demand, right? What is your favorite super fight to do? I know it's a stupid question, but I'm curious. Which one do you love doing? Like when they call, you're like, hell yes, I'm in.
I'm going to be honest, I don't have one.
You don't have one?
No,
Okay.
because the thing is, every rule set's different, and every rule set has its benefit. And I think a lot of reasons, like why one person likes one over the other is because of the rule set, because they're like, well, someone games that rule set, right?
Yeah.
Let's be real. If somebody wants to game a rule set, they're going to game every single rule set
Of course.
out there. You can game ADCC rule sets if you want to,
Yes.
IBJJF, Fight to Win, Who's Number One. Any rule set you want to game, you can game. As long as I have enough notice to be able to switch to that rule set and train for it, I really don't. Each one has its own benefits.
Yeah. You know the rule I love the most is ADCC out of bounds. Bitch, there ain't no out of bounds.
Yeah. You stop when I tell you to stop. Yeah, that's it.
When you hit your head on the metal and you're dying, maybe we'll call a stop.
Yeah. I guess you got to have like control, right? Someone's got to have control. It's complete
and has to stop.
It has to stop. Yeah.
It's not even just like control and then keep going. There has to be control and you stop.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to, even if you have control, but there's still movement, they don't want to. I mean, it makes sense. That really changes. Even if you're on the back, if the person is trying to roll out, it makes a huge difference if they're able to continue that motion versus if you stop them, even though technically the position is the same. It changes it.
Yeah. Real quick on ADCC. What was it like being backstage ADCC with like everybody who's everybody of jiu-jitsu is back there with you? I mean, you're among them. I'm not discounting that.
No, you're good.
But I mean, there are some freaking living legends backstage. What is that like?
Do you know what's crazy? It really doesn't feel any different. I've been asked that a couple times, like, how did it feel like competing ADCC?
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, when you look back at it, you're like, yeah, like, that was ADCC. But the thing is, when you're competing at it, it's not like you all of a sudden get this huge jump, right?
Gotcha.
Like, this has been...
You're still at work.
Yeah, this has been years in the making. It's like if you started at any job, right? You start one lower level, and let's say by, 10, 15 years, you're way high up in the company. Does it really feel that different to you?
Not really. You're right.
Not really.
That.
It's literally the exact same thing. And honestly, I wish I had like this really cool kind of answer, but it really doesn't. And it's kind of...
That's probably why they don't let people like us be backstage.
Oh, no.
We'd nerd out.
Yeah, I gave...
Yeah, I nerd out. I don't care.
I did not give someone my... But someone went back there with a pass and was like freaking out, and I was like, if you acted embarrassing, I will literally murder you. Like, I wanted to. There was this person, and blah, 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 and I was like, and that's why they don't allow you guys back. Like,
that's right. Yeah.
Like, oh my God. And I will tell you though, it was insane with how many people were there. I couldn't go to the bathroom without getting stopped like 10 times. Yeah. And I don't mean like the whole overall time. Yeah. I mean like every time I went to go to the bathroom, and I was like, I just have to pee. Can I just go pee?
Me.
But like that is like, when you go to an open, right? You have like families of
competitors.
Competitors. And they really don't know what they're they don't know what they're seeing. First off, they certainly don't notice that Liz Clay just walked by.
Or even if they do, they just don't care.
Yeah, that was a room full of jiu-jitsu nerds.
Yeah,
it was insane.
All of them. Yeah.
I literally, and I hate, and this is because I was competing beforehand.
Right. Yeah.
I still, honestly, I was really sad how short the ADCC meet and greet got cut, because I think that's important because people need to be able to come up and talk and get pictures and that type of thing. Yeah. But I think the thing that makes it hard in jiu-jitsu is we don't really have like a set time and a place for it, which makes it really easy to kind of do it at the wrong time. And it's not necessarily your fault. It can be hard to know when a person is doing something and such. But it can also be hard being the athlete when you just want to go grab something or go to the bathroom, and you're gonna get stopped like a lot.
Yeah.
And
just wear a mask.
I literally put my headphones in and put my hood down and just tried to stare at the ground and walk as fast as I could.
Yeah, I'm
because
sure.
Because the thing is, when you get stopped, you don't just get stopped once. The thing is, if you get stopped, a line starts forming.
Yeah.
Especially like, and not at most normal competitions, but especially ADCC. Like when I say a line starts forming, I'm not kidding.
No, I believe it.
Like a full on line. And the thing is, I think some athletes don't mind saying no and kind of basically telling people to shoo.
Yeah.
I can't. I won't do it.
Good for you. That's cool. Yeah. I mean, you got to hold it longer, but
yeah. But like I won't do that. You went out of your way to go and do that. I'm not going to tell you no.
Yeah, that's cool.
I was going to say, so what he was talking about earlier about like, being a woman in a male dominant sport, do you feel like, you're kind of obligated, because you probably have a lot of like young girls who kind of like look up to you and approach you at these tournaments. Do you feel obligated like because of
like
that?
Almost a responsibility, a sense of responsibility? No?
Not really.
Okay.
Yeah. Honestly, there's just as many little boys as there are little girls. And cool. Even adults. It's not even like...
Yeah.
I would say, if anything, it's split 50-50.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't... In my mind, like... Yeah, more so for the kids, because the kids look up, but it doesn't have anything to do with boy or girl.
Yeah.
Just any of it. But also the fact that takes a lot to go up to like ask someone for a picture. I will say this. Please, if you see me, ask for a picture. Don't just stare at me. It's really uncomfortable.
Especially if you're 48.
It's really, it happens so often. Like, you know when someone recognizes you or when someone's just like looking.
Sure,
there's a difference.
Yeah.
The amount of times I'll get stared, and I'm like, please just come and ask, because like I'm really uncomfortable right now because you're just staring at me.
Yeah.
And I'll get all the like, and this started happening when I was like right after I won the trials the first time. I remember I went into like a restaurant with a friend of mine for kids' pans, and he's like, everyone is staring at us. He's like, is this normal? I was like, yeah, this is normal now.
Do you remember during COVID, and we went to, it was that event that was at, it was a no-gi tournament at, where were we? The state fairground in downtown, in Phoenix. And I think it was the day you guys were leaving, and Liz and I
swap cars. Yeah, swap.
But Liz and I walk into the event, and some guy's like, "Hey, can I take a picture with you?" And I'm like, we've been rolling at Dan and Andrea's house. Like, it's just like, she's like a normal person to us, but to a lot of people, it's like, she's a celebrity to
them. She did her laundry at my house. Like, well, it's okay.
No, but I like, Danilo joke, he's like, I hate walking with you. I'm like, why? He's like, well, because like I get stopped and he's sometimes doesn't pay attention and he just keeps walking. And I've literally texted,
I remember that happened.
Yeah, I'm literally,
he just left.
He just left it. I'm like,
tell him to get off Instagram.
What was that? He's not even on his phone, so he just keeps going. And I was like, I was like, you just left. It happened one time. It happened like 6 times in the same day.
Oh
and
my
I was so mad at him. He's like, I didn't know. You just stopped.
Phoenix
I was like,
Open. That's what happened. Phoenix Open. He just kept
and I was
going.
like, hi, here's a picture.
Gotta go.
I just got ditched.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So, real quick, you've got No-Gi Worlds coming up in a week, right? Next week?
Next week.
And then what does the upcoming year look like? What is your goal for the upcoming year, 2023?
So 2023, starting it off with Europeans, which will be in Paris, which will be fun. That'll be my first time in Paris.
Yeah.
So I'm doing that one, very beginning of the year. I am possibly doing one of the AJPs that's in London, that's in March. However, they haven't announced the dates for PANS yet. So I'm not sure if that'll be during the same date or not. And also, tickets are really expensive to London right now from here. If I go, I'll have to fly out of LAX, which
sucks.
But it's half the price.
Yeah, you got to do it, but it sucks.
It's literally half the price. Yeah. So it would be cheaper for me to buy a ticket from here to LAX and then fly out from there, which is, if I end up going, is probably what I'll do.
Yeah.
So possibly that. If not, I'll just do PANS. Possibly have a super fight. Still kind of talking about that right now. And honestly, I don't even know if I'm going to have time to be able to do it, which is insane.
Yeah.
Just from like
that's okay.
Euros, and then I have PANS, and I'm doing Brazilian Nationals.
You are,
which is in May,
front loaded like crazy.
Yeah.
Between January and May, you are front loaded.
I have at least 4 major competitions.
Yeah.
In the first 5 months.
And then you got
the
Worlds.
Year. Yeah.
In June.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's a lot.
And that's not even in. It could possibly be more like 6 if I have the super fight and if I do the AJP in London. That's 6.
Yeah.
That's 6 major either fights or tournaments in like not even a full 6 months.
Wow. Yeah. And so what does your seminar schedule usually look like? Do people hit you up a lot for seminars? Do you have to travel a lot for
that? Sometimes more than less. Last year I had a lot of seminars. This year hasn't been as many. I think parts I just haven't been pushing them.
Okay.
Hardly at all.
Yeah.
I'm always up for doing seminars, especially when I'm trying to travel out of the country, just to try and hit up other ones.
Absolutely.
But a question I always get asked, hey, would you do one here? Would you do one there? I'll do seminars wherever, as long as, you just obviously pay for me to get there.
Right.
And then the fees. Now, if I'm already in, let's use yours, for example.
Yep.
And you have, let's say Germany.
Yeah.
You're in Germany and I'm in Paris.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to pay for me from Paris to Germany.
Oh, perfect.
Or Paris to Germany and back, depending on my flight back. If you hit me up before or after, I already have tickets bought, that type of stuff. If I'm not already going and you want me somewhere, you literally just have to pay for me to get there, and then my seminar cost.
Oh, that's perfect.
So literally just like message on Instagram, and that's where I basically do everything from.
What about accommodations? What about a hotel? Do they pay for that as well? Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that's only right. If you're going to call somebody and have them come over. Well, listen, we've been going for about 2 hours now. And I want to make sure you get an opportunity to give a shout out to any of your sponsors, anybody you want to talk about, and I want you to share how people can find you, Instagram, social media, all that stuff.
Yeah, sponsors always Zebra. They've been with me since I was literally 16.
Yeah.
So Zebra, I have my gi sponsor, Oyuroi, and Fighter's Choice for supplements, which is always important.
Yeah.
And as far as finding me on social media, it's Instagram is the best thing. I have Facebook and stuff like that, but I don't use that hardly at all, especially for that stuff.
Yeah.
If you want to find me, Instagram is the best thing for anything, just to keep up with stuff or messaging about seminars or anything like that.
Okay.
It's Instagram, just Elisabeth Clay, BJJ.
Perfect. So before you go, we got to do the lightning round of questions. Okay. There are no wrong answers. But you're a little young. Some of these may not apply. All right. So you can pass. All right. You ready?
No, you can't pass.
Let's go.
Pick it up.
No.
All right. As fast as you can answer. Name a game show you think you could actually win.
I don't even watch game shows. I'm too young for that.
That was one right there. I knew that was going to
happen. Go.
What's your favorite cheat meal?
Right now, tacos.
What's the longest you've gone without brushing your teeth?
Oh, that's gross. Probably with flying. Maybe like some of those fights are long, like 24 hours.
Okay, a day. What's your go-to karaoke song?
I don't sing karaoke.
Gun to your head. Gun to your head. You got to do it. What would you sing? Gun to your head.
I would die.
What's a stupid song you actually secretly like?
It's everything?
Yeah.
It's literally everything.
Everything?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you kill bugs or yell for help?
I kill bugs.
Do you sleep in or take a nap?
Oh, sleep in.
Do you use a public restroom or hold it?
Public restroom.
Would you rather go into the future or back in time?
Future.
DC or Marvel?
Ooh,
there is a right answer.
I know. So you're gonna say DC's right, but I'm gonna say Marvel.
No, Marvel.
No, Marvel?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
PlayStation or Xbox?
Oh, PlayStation.
All right. Liz Clay, thank you so much for doing this. I really had fun having you on. Too bad we have to have Tojo in the room, but that's okay. We'll get past it. Thank you so much.
I had to bring down the average.
Yeah, yeah. All right, everybody. Hey, listen, if you guys like the podcast, if you got something out of this, please follow us on YouTube, on Instagram, the BJJ Foxcast. And we also have a Facebook page that we hardly ever use. We also have a website that I put no time into, so don't go there. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks you.
Thank you.